your mind. So, YouTube, TikTok, what's good? What's good, TikTok? Wait, how am I restricted? That's because that person was doing all that freaking cursing. I keep telling them, don't be. Hold up, y'all. I'm sorry. I thought I had the TikTok set up. Yeah, rising.
Look at the disciple and said, that is.
So basically, I need to turn the TikTok on. Grand Rising, hope all is well. Yeah. Where is it? Okay. Here. Clear this real quick. Okay. Make sure. The freak. So, Anna Pauline Luna, you know, a congresswoman, she is talking about how we're multi-dimensional being. You know, they've been releasing certain said documents that she's saying like that the America government knew what was going on. They knew that aliens was here among us, so on and so forth, these multi-dimensional beings. She said that the government knew that they look black down here. So they're multi-dimensional beings that are black people down here on Earth, right? So now what they're doing is they're saying that the aliens look like black people. Let's get into it. Let's listen.
Based on witnesses that have come forward, but what I can tell
So
you
the
is
witnesses just were told that they were
that they've seen things. And what I can tell you without getting into classified conversations is that there have been incidences that I believe where very credible people have reported that there have been movement outside of time and space.
Outside of time and space.
That's very vague.
Yeah, so look.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, look. Have I seen a portal open? No. Have I seen a spaceship? Personally, no. Have I seen evidence of this? Yes. Have I seen photo documentation of aircraft that I believe were not made by mankind? Yes. Is there historical significance to this? Yes. Is there
everybody hear this well?
Events that go back to, I would argue, maybe
Roswell?
Even before the time of Christ that have documented this in text? Yes. So do I believe that the government?
She's talking about
yes, to an extent, and I believe that certain contractors
the Emerald tablets
have back engineered this tech. I think that that's what can explain the advancements that we're seeing, but I also believe that this is a dangerous level of hidden information from the American people, because if you have an aspect of the federal government, which I can tell you I, with 2 other members of Congress, were denied access to information at Eglin Air Force Base pertaining to whistleblowers because of the fact, and we can get into that story of what happened at Eglin in a second, but we were denied access and told that we don't have security clearance or the read-in authority on a special access program. That's a problem because I'm supposed to represent and be an investigative body, and you have then people who are unelected that are operating basically in secrecy, and that's a problem. That's a big problem.
And so how do these people have the authority to do that?
I think it's been decades of classified secret information, then also this aspect of the intelligence community that's been empowered. And it's kind of serendipitous with timing because when you talk about the intelligence communities and what they've done essentially to the trust in this country with the American people, I think this goes all the way back even into JFK, with how they basically have operated outside of the purview of Congress. And
Now, mind you, this is a Congresswoman saying this.
Up until recently, you're seeing a big
They
pull.
that they never told the American people they've been using different variations and getting different variations of technology, so on and so forth, but they never alerted the American people about, energy variations of how some of them are multidimensional beings, or how they're using your multidimensional being aspect in order to keep you operating in certain dimensions, right? So they're saying like some people down here are sparking dimensional shifts outside of time and space, but because they don't know that they're multidimensional beings, they don't know what they're doing, and it's causing different variations of vibrational rifts and so on and so forth. And they're saying like because they don't know, or because they didn't inform them that they were multidimensional beings, right? This is the outcome of it. So they're telling you that we are multidimensional beings. And maybe not everybody is multidimensional beings, but some of us are multidimensional beings sharing a human experience. As soon as they recognize that, right? As soon as they recognize that we are multidimensional beings, right? We should be allowed to assemble. That once we recognize, they are saying that now in Congress, she's coming out saying that, that people down here are multidimensional beings, right? I'm not saying it. I know what the freak going on.
They're reigning these intelligence.
You can look at the backdrop.
Yeah, so but I want to bring it back to evidence. You said that you've seen evidence. Like, what kind of evidence have you seen?
I have seen photos. I have seen.
What have you seen photos of?
So I was.
Hey, tap the screen if y'all just coming in.
Discuss all that was in a skiff, but what I can tell you is based on the photos.
Tap the screen. Tap the screen.
Very confident that there's things out there that have not been created by me.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking.
Now listen, she said she's like pretty much saying there is things out there that was not created by mankind, right? I seen photos, so on and so forth, this, that, and the third, but that's not the interesting part of this. It gets way more interesting than that.
People have access to information.
Y'all tap the screen.
That shows
tap the screen. Tap the screen.
That is more intelligent, at least more capable than we are, and they hide it from everybody else.
What I can tell you is that when you have thousands upon thousands of people around the planet throughout time that have reported something,
right?
To say that those people are crazy, to say that the whole concept of even just asking the question that you might not necessarily be psychologically sound, that in itself, that's a disinformation campaign to get people to shut up about it, and that's a problem.
Y'all want to come up in the box? Come up in the box on TikTok.
The government has not exactly been clean.
But tap the screen,
in a
please.
lot of what they've done with the American people, specifically to the topic of UFOs.
Which makes you think that it's probably because there's something there. If you think about the motivation they had with Project Blue Book, when J. Allen Hynek was running Project Blue Book, the specific intention was to discredit all stories.
And he ended up ultimately, though, after all of his investigations, becoming someone that was like, I think there's something here. But that's true. By the way, a lot of people might not necessarily go onto Google and look up that information, but you can actually look up the declassified reports from Project Blue Book. What's also interesting, though, is when we're talking about tech, right? The ability for this tech, being that it exists, to change dependence for entire governments on things like fossil fuel, etc. You know, it's look, I think everyone has a moral obligation to do what they think is right, okay? And so if you're in a position of power and you see something wrong and you're not addressing it, I think, you know, this in itself, getting the truth out there for people to decide for themselves. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you, in our investigations and what we are pushing for in regards to transparency, I would like to see the federal government roll out some of the stuff that we've been given access to, because I think that that information belongs in the hands of the American people. And it's not even just the U.S. government.
See?
There's other...
That information belongs in the hands of the American
Look,
people.
I've had a lot of crazy people show up at my office and say, you know, I've heard it all. Yeah, I've been to Mars. You know, I have a chip in my brain, all this stuff.
They all have chips.
We had this one guy that showed up that was like trying to give us a USB. He's like, put this in your computer. They're gonna kill me for this. And like runs away. And I'm like, I'm not putting that in my computer. But based on our investigations, what I will tell you is, you know, there's been 2 members of Congress that are actually helping to lead out these investigations with me. And the reason I say that is because up until last Congress, if you even said the word UAP or UFO, people actually told us that if we went forward with these investigations that we were going to ruin our political careers. And so, you know, we're in the mindset of, well, like, why wouldn't we ask these questions? And also, too, if no one wants to touch it, like, there has to be something here, right?
Right.
And so in these investigations, I mean, the amount of people that will come up to us, very successful people, to multiple members of Congress that believe the same thing, it's definitely changed in regards to the stigma that used to exist about disclosure and all this. And so what we're trying to do currently was, there's a big documentary that was filmed about 1.5 years ago, and we're trying to get a screening up on Capitol Hill. But look, I think a lot of people say, well, this is a distraction from everything else happening in the country right now. And all I'm simply trying to say is, it's not a distraction. The people that are kind of helping to divulge all this information, you have an intelligence community, you know, Tulsi Gabbard, Radcliffe, Kash Patel, they have been truly, in regards to our other investigations, extremely transparent and wanting to get this information out. But it doesn't mean that within these intelligence communities there isn't pushback. And so part of the reason why the task force was formed, pertaining to things like UAP, pertaining to things like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, pertaining to things like the JFK, MLK, and RFK investigations, is because even though we don't hold declassification authority, what we're trying to do is push these agencies and be, if you will, the pit bull and the attack dog on trying to get this information released. And to a lot of these agencies' credits, they've been extremely transparent, and we have gone win specifically on the JFK stuff, and we're still looking to declassify and ask specifically on the UAP topic.
What would be the rationale for keeping a photograph of a known absolute not of this world craft?
Can you please just
What would be
hear
the
me?
what?
No, all work management.
Known. What would be the known photograph?
World. Why would anybody think that that would be the smart thing to do, is to limit the access of that information to a very small amount of people?
I think that part of the fear is that you have advisors that think that, you know, the American people or humanity might not be able to handle it. There's this like protective.
You see how she keeps saying the American people, the American people? You see how she keeps saying that?
For a lot of people, I think that it kind of can rock your world a little bit in regards to where you stand in a faith perspective, and then also too an aspect of,
I appreciate you getting
how
that
you
badge.
even begin to explain it. And all I'm going to say is, look,
becoming a
and
team.
we can go into some of the books
Just
that
got
were
number
removed
one
from what we
gifter.
know as the modern day Bible, but
Country
I
girl.
read through the Book of Enoch multiple times.
The Book of
And
Enoch.
I'm not saying that these things are angels, okay? That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that depending on where you are in regards to your whole perspective on whether or not God exists, like, I believe in God, I'm a Christian. There has to have been, and there's admissions that there was other creations that God made, but that we were the most prized creation. And so I think that this can open up a bigger topic of discussion. What I will say is that what's been interesting is, and I've had a mass array of people that have come in, right? Like, we have people that come in that claim that you can use this ability to basically dog whistle these things in from a psychic ability.
Yeah, I've heard people say that.
And I think that there's something there. Otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily be able to provide some of the video evidence that they have. But then that also brings up the question of if these things
Listen.
are interdimensional, which we've had witnesses testify to members of Congress, and that was all publicly out there. That would then bring up the whole, well, if this is really transcending dimension, the power of what you say, thought, all of that. And then, you know, you can look into our own government's declassified documents that the CIA had on different experiments. I mean, you can literally, last week I was going through, actually on a Friday night, I just put my son down, and I was going through some of the declassified, you go to cia.gov/reading room and you can see all the declassified documents. And so I believe it's called Stargate, and it was talking about, you know, the basically psychological experiments where they were trying to basically remote view and all that. Why would our own government be looking into that if there wasn't something there? And so
Now think about that. She said they're talking about Stargate, you know, Project Stargate, where they're trying to remote view from people's, you know, own eyes, right? The same thing that chick on the Atwood's network was doing, right? Remember, she said she was trying to remote view Ronnie Bowe, and she was like, oh, I see him in the room, you know, with gray, you know, they got gray, the walls are gray, so on and so forth, right? Talking about remote viewing, right? Yeah. So she's a congresswoman, right? This person is a congresswoman, and she's telling you about the same thing that Rose person was playing with, the same thing, the spirituality stuff that they keep on playing on, don't want to give us back the knowledge and the information, the same thing that I'm talking about, the same thing that they keep on trying to neglect to talk about, that we talk about over here, right? That they keep on trying to stop the growth of, right? Now she's saying the same thing that we constantly talk about over here. That's why I say we got to push past all this negative. Let's stay as an intellectual, enlightened beings, right? If we are multidimensional beings, let's stay in an enlightened state of being, right? Let's stay informed with this knowledge that's coming out, right? Because it's not coming out for no reason. This universal knowledge, this ability to, you know, bring this to the forefront is called full disclosure, right? They have to tell us about this, right? The people that are actually trying to stop my growth is the people, they already sold their souls. They sold their souls many, many eons ago to block out this knowledge. These are the same people who tell you not to go to the library. These are the same people who tell you not to read a book. These are the same people who have never tell you, you know what I'm saying, to go educate yourself, right? They always want reality to perceive from their perspective how reality is. Everything has to be seen from their perspective. And now that everyone got to have an open mind, now that you got to have this new understanding of life, right? They're tearing down anybody who actually has an open mind to understand this world, that we are multidimensional beings sharing a human experience. And you can make that a hellacious experience by focusing on depression, sadness, low vibrations, or you can make it a heavenly one by focusing on, you know, gratitude, love, light, unity, right? They're going to tear down anybody that's focused on love, light, unity, knowledge, right? They're going to tear us down. We know that now. We know that. We know now why we're the black sheeps of the family. We know now, you know, we understand more now than we ever did. We get it now. You guys have always been afraid of the knowledge that we obtain. You guys have always been afraid of that. You guys have always been afraid of moon, stars, and quasars, 88 constellations of the sky, the Aquarius sky. This going back to the Mayans, the Incas, the Aztec. If you look up the Mayans, the Incas, and the Aztecs, you will see that a lot of their knowledge got crammed into the Catholic Church, you know, so on and so forth. So all of these things have been scary to the humankind.
So I'm appreciative to all that information being publicly out there, but I think this whole idea and stigma of trying to make it sound crazy when people actually have these questions, that needs to stop, which is why the task force is in existence. And then also, too, they need to release information.
See?
If I was going to be advocate, I would say...
They just told y'all that y'all attacking us for having these questions need to stop. You see, that's a Congresswoman I need to get in touch to. I need to get in touch with her so we can push this human rights thing, right? Because just because we have questions about stuff, just because we are willing to understand stuff, doesn't mean you guys have the right to attack us for our level of understanding or trying to understand, right? So that's what she's saying. Like, anybody who's attacking someone who has questions about this stuff, that needs to stop. Yeah, it's all coming out. Don't worry about it.
That the government would look into that to find out if there's anything there. And that would probably take a long time if they're really being careful. So if I was going to fund a program, if someone told me that there's some people in Russia that can remote view military sites in America, I'd be like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, there's a technique involved, and we know the technique, and we want to fund some sort of a study to see if we can do it. I'm like, let's go. What do you need? Because maybe it's real. So I don't buy that they wouldn't spend money on it unless it's real. I say they would spend money on it to find out if you're really looking out for national security, right? You've got 300+ million people that you're responsible for. You got to dot your I's and cross your T's, and like if
Truth or dare?
truth.
Listen to what they saying.
It's with my dare.
Listen to what they saying now. They saying you got if somebody say that remote
I'm
viewing
good at
is
my
real.
job, and I'm not an egomaniac. I'm gonna go. Maybe there's some shit I don't know. You know.
Well, there's looking into it, and then there's expanding, right? And so if you look at all those declassified files, you know, you can pull up, and this is just wild that there's one where I was looking through, and they had basically, you know, the Coast Guard had called in. There was a ship that they had been given information on that was running drugs, and so they called in one of their remote viewers, and they're trying to give coordinates of the ship and actually like basically locate these things. And actually was laughing because I was reading this off the website, and I'm telling my husband, like, imagine, you know, you're trying to run drugs, and then all of a sudden you have some like weirdo at Langley like in a basement, they're like, nope, just like use the coordinates, you know, beam me up, Scotty. But
Yeah, I don't know if they write things down or type them out or what, but I talked to Put Off about it, and he said they used it to very specifically find the location of a downed Russian craft within like a couple kilometers, which is nuts. If you think about the area where this thing crashed, it's a remote wilderness.
No, tap the
no
screen,
one
tap the
hasn't
screen.
found it yet. Apparently, we found it first, according to Hal Putoff. It's just because I haven't done it and because I don't know that it's real doesn't mean it's not real. And this is a problem with people. They don't want to get duped, and they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look naive, and so they dismiss things. They dismiss that there might be frequencies that you don't tune into all the time, and someone might get really good at that, and they might be able to see things remotely. This episode is brought to you by the
Hold
Farmer's
on.
Dog. I think we can all agree that eating highly processed.
Hold on. What did he say? He said, basically,
via meditation.
in a lump shell, right, that there's frequencies. And some people might be able to understand these frequencies better than others, and they might be able to see things in these frequencies. Who's constantly been saying that? Dang, for some reason that just sounds familiar, like somebody's been saying that I know.
We're essentially like downloading information. We can communicate with these things. Granted, you know, when I'm sitting in my congressional office and I'm hearing this, I take it with a grain of salt because we do get a lot of crazy people. But when you have people that are high-level executives, very successful, clean cut, not on drugs, they're coming in and they're telling you this stuff, and then, you know, you're kind of cross-referencing it with various people in intelligence agencies. I think that there's something there. We need to be at least open to hearing the discussion and the argument for these things.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I said, if there's a photo out there, I think you owe humanity a service. You're supposed to release that photograph. Like, there's no reason why a small group of people in the government should have photo conclusive evidence that aliens are real.
And
That's crazy.
And there's an overclassification aspect of this too, right? Like if you're serving the military and you're taking a photo on your personal device or a video on your personal device, that shouldn't be the purview of the federal government. And either which way, I mean, there's been now so much stuff. There's been a lot of fake stuff put out there, but the stuff that is legitimate that we are seeing, the stuff that we had people testify to in our congressional hearings, I mean, that's not a joke. And what's even more interesting to this is that I was actually able to talk to David Grush, who now is actually working with the task force to kind of chase down a lot of these leads in regards to some of these contractors that allegedly have this tech, right? So in talking with him, again, not in a skiff, we were able to actually flesh out that prior to him testifying, that he actually received very real threats against his life and his wife's life. He's a sound guy, and then shortly after he testified, there's this massive smear operation that was launched against him to try to discredit his testimony. And so, you know, again, going into, well, if this stuff wasn't real, or if he wasn't telling the truth, why would there be this massively orchestrated effort to, you know, completely just...
It's never been easier to start a podcast than with her.
Did you hear that? If the stuff he was talking about wasn't real, why was there a big smear campaign? Look, listen to what she's saying.
What he was trying to say, or to discredit his actions and his testimony. And so it is kind of coming full circle, right? Going back to what the task force has been able to find out. I mean, we're conducting these investigations simultaneously, and we're doing this in addition to everything that we...
I can't wait till it trickles down to the internet.
Right?
I can't wait till the investigation come to the internet.
Dedicate my full-time attention to this, we still have to balance it out. And so I've again had some
Let me do
investigators
it. Hire me.
With us on oversight.
Hire me.
As well as a lot of cooperation
I know they
with
attack the
intelligence
spiritual
agencies, and we
people.
are going to be asking for this information to be declassified, at least the information that has been shown to us.
I think the first break in the wall was that 2017 New York Times report where they were talking about it in logical, sensible language, that these things might be from another world. But I think that movie that you were discussing, which is The Age of Disclosure.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's very good, and it doesn't even have any like UFO footage. I mean, maybe like a little bit.
It's just testimony.
It's just testimony. And at the end of it, you kind of draw this conclusion, like, oh, this makes sense. Like this, what they're essentially saying is one of the problems is if they have been funding these secret programs, then for all these years, they've been misappropriating money.
Oh yeah, and they've been lying to Congress.
And that's
Jinx.
super illegal.
Very illegal, but you know,
Super
like,
illegal.
She said
is
James.
Congress going to do anything about it? Because it's not the
She
first
said
time.
James.
Like, we have the ability, and this is the most frustrating thing. So, this is my second term in Congress now, but as a first-term member of Congress, you know, when you get elected to Congress,
Oh,
you
she
think
said his
they're bringing
name.
you in and
She said his name so he could talk.
No,
Oh, she is smart. She's smart. You know how when you jank somebody, they can't talk until you say their name? So they said the same thing at the same time. She jinxed him, and then in the middle of her sentence, she said Joe, so that way he could be able to talk. Because when you jank somebody, it's like you got their luck and they can't talk until you say their name. So when you jank somebody, they can't talk until you say their name or unjinx them. That's the only way to unjinx them is to say their name. So that, I think that was pretty cool right there that she was like, Joe, you know, just to give them that watch.
A little bit.
Watch when they say the same thing at the same time, and then she say jinx.
just testimony.
It's just testimony. And at the end of it, you kind of draw this conclusion, like, oh, this makes sense. Like this, what they're essentially saying is one of the problems is if they have been funding these secret programs, then for all these years, they've been misappropriating money.
Oh yeah, and they've been lying to Congress.
And that's
Jinx.
super illegal.
See?
Very illegal, but
See?
you know,
Super
like,
illegal.
it's
See, she jinxed them. She jinxed them. And look, she jinxed him, so now she's got to say his name in order to unjinx him.
just going to do anything about it because it's not the first time. Like, we have
Watch.
the ability.
She
and
gonna
this is the
slide it
most
in there.
frustrating thing. So
Joe.
this is my second term in Congress now. But as a first-term member of Congress, you know, when you get elected to Congress,
See,
you would think
that's,
that they'd
yo,
bring you in and they'd
y'all
say,
don't
"Okay, this
know.
is how you do the
Y'all don't
legislation."
know.
No, you get elected.
It
you
might
should
be
sit kind of
superstitious
crash
to
course
some
for about,
people,
like, a
but
week and a half
a
on
lot of
how to
people
not
would have
get in
caught
trouble with
that.
ethics, and then you're basically wined and dined by lobbyists. They don't actually tell you how to do the legislation. Basically, the only rules that you're told are
Some people
never
say,
vote down a
you gotta
rule,
get
which
me a
is
Pepsi.
procedural motion to bring
James, you
legislation
gotta get me a
forward,
Pepsi.
and
That's
don't
not what
really
that
ever vote
shit
against your
was.
party. Of which within the first week, I broke both rules, and so I was on the naughty list, per usual. But the thing is,
They
is that
tell you how to do it. That's kind of crazy.
well, they tell you basically those are the two rules, and don't go against that. And you won't have any issues.
Those are big ass rules, though.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, you're supposed to represent your constituency. So if you have people calling your office saying, don't need to vote for this, and then you vote against it, it's like people forget that you're supposed to represent, right, representative instead of just do what the party wants. But, you know, there are mechanisms that have existed since Thomas Jefferson, who wrote our damn rule manual, that enable us to actually pass legislation and actually hold agencies and people accountable from a punitive perspective. And I don't know if you were tracking, but like I brought a vote on the former attorney general for basically refusing to testify to Congress and respond to a subpoena. And that was called inherent contempt. And a lot of Congress was like, what the hell is inherent contempt? It hadn't been done since the early 1900s. And I actually read it in the rule manual, and I read the rule manual twice. It's like so crazy what happens when you read books. But we were able to find this out, and it was a mechanism that Congress can use to actually basically send the sergeant at arms to go arrest people.
Jeez.
Did you know that you can have permanent teeth in just 24 hours?
So, one of the things that this documentary was calling for that I think is the only logical way to solve this is a mass amnesty for these people that misappropriated money and
Or whistleblowers.
Well, the whistleblowers thing is crazy. Like, they leave them alone. Like, come on. Of course, everybody should fucking know this stuff, guys. The real crime is you keeping this secret from humanity. That's the real crime. Okay, the other stuff is horseshit. It's just interpretations of what you're writing down on paper. You're making up rules. But if you ask the general public how they feel this should go, a rational, normal person would say, there's no fucking way the defense contractor should be the only people who know that we're not alone. Fuck you.
Especially
That's
when we're
crazy.
facing a massive deficit and you see that they're like the Pentagon hasn't been able to pass the audit and I don't know how many
Yeah, all
years.
that stuff is
It's
great,
crazy.
but just for humanity,
I
just for humanity, that is a giant piece of information that no one should have. No one should secretly keep information that would change our entire perspective on our existence.
It's definitely wrong that it's happening for sure. What I will tell you though is the issue that we have with bringing forward legislation that would give mass amnesty and pardon to these people is that there are people within the intelligence community and within Congress on both sides that will try to,
They
if you come
don't
forward with this,
feel
and I'll tell
like
you
the
a very
people should
premise
know
of
this
moment,
stuff.
that they will block it, they don't want it to pass, they will stop it from even coming to the floor, they won't bring legislation that will address it because they want to keep this information secret. So Representative Tim Burchett
But
before...
why do they want to keep the information secret?
Because I think that their mouthpiece is in control of the deep state. And that's a thing. And it exists on both sides, okay?
So someone will come to them with marching orders.
100%. Representative Tim Burchett, before I got elected, was kind of on his own little island in regards to the UAP stuff. And he will himself tell you that, you know, this is 100% like a thing. And that these defense contractors and what he believes, you know, the Pentagon not passing off all this, these black budget programs. I mean, like, he will tell you, he's, again, been leading out this effort way before I got there. He had a piece of legislation that was supposed to enable the FAA to report and develop a different reporting procedure for UAP stuff. And at the time, the chairman of Intel ensured that that legislation was not brought forward, that it was stopped. The piece of legislation that actually passed out of the Senate, it really had no teeth to it. And then Representative Burchett drew a primary challenger that was being backed by the chairman of Intel. And so, you know, when you are touching these, it's like, you know that meme where you have that stork that's like, don't touch this, and then the little foot comes out?
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we're doing, and it's not exactly easy because you will take...
I mean, at this point, it's like, if they do tell us, will people believe it?
Group that's been assembled that's bicameral, meaning it's both in the House
If the
and Senate,
government
and
did tell
bipartisan,
us, if they
meaning
held a
both
meeting
the
about it,
Senate
would they
and
believe
should
it?
actually happen.
Are they publicly talking about not releasing the information, or is all this stuff done in secrecy?
It's done behind the scenes.
Because if they had to do it publicly, if they had to announce their position on it publicly, it would be very damaging, I think, to anybody's political career on the right or the left.
People would be pissed, right?
Well, they're pissed. Well, because I'm pissed. Because if they've had it for this long, and if they really did recover something as early as 1947, excuse me.
Well, I can tell you is
Is 1947, is that the Roswell?
We're made aware some people had come forward that said that they wanted to brief. So about 2 years ago, when all this kicked off, we had requested briefings from Arrow, that's in charge of kind of compiling the investigative aspect of UAP stuff.
I wonder if she's going to talk about valid Thor.
Like, even in talking to Arrow, I was like, this organization is literally a BS organization. They're never going to tell us anything. And every interaction that we had in the skiff, I was like, this is a nothing burger. But then these people came forward and said that they were actually denied, they were told to not brief our group specifically on this topic, and that it was from, at the time, members of House leadership, but they wouldn't say who. And so I actually went with another member of Congress and confronted multiple people, and they all denying us access. So it's done behind the scenes. You'll see these random little troll blockages that might pop up. But what I can tell you is that with the new administration, specifically with the FBI, specifically with ODNI, we have gotten transparency to where previously,
yo, stop spamming. Stop all capping and spamming in the comment section, Paul.
And so what I will tell you is we are going to push for the information that we sought to be out there for the American people to see.
So do you think that the whole idea of disclosure is maybe a multiple step, very agonizing, frustrating?
Y'all know what y'all doing. Y'all know y'all slowly letting information out. You said the same thing with Cat Williams.
Roswell.
Said, you go back and listen to that Cat Williams. He said, Cat Williams said, what do you think disclosure is? It's information coming out through a period of time.
During that same time period, there was a really prominent UFO.
No, we can't see it yet. So here's the update on the 3-Eye Atlas. Here's the update on the 3-Eye Atlas before we continue to listen. So recent update said that it was moving faster than what we thought, and we will be seeing it in November. Well, as of yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, they say that it's moving even faster than that, and we might see it as soon as 2 weeks. Right? Or it might be passing by our sun, because it's actually going to hide itself behind our sun. So it's going to pass behind our sun. Now, I don't know if they're telling us November and then changing it to 2 weeks so that way we can all not pay attention to it in November. I'm not sure how they're playing the cards on this one. They're saying that it's definitely might be alienated. They saying the movement is not of a meteor type. They say that it's reflecting the sun, so it's hiding itself. They're also saying that there's I guess, I don't know how, but I guess fumes or something is indicating that it might have some sort of system of projecting itself, which would be basically rocket or some sort of gas or something that they're using to move. So I'm not sure as far as like how much they're going to release of this as this thing get closer, and analyzing it from this distance. I don't think they can really tell us too much. I don't know how they're coming up with different variations of things as far as saying that it is astronaut, alienated, but they're saying the movement of it is very selected, right? Strategical, if you would say, right? It's stealth, the fact that it's going to pass by behind the sun, all of that stuff. So it's, a lot of stuff is coming out, and it should get very interested. Could this be stirring up? Could it? Let's say that this thing is moving and passing by our solar system, sun, right? Could it be releasing something in our sun that will then release, some type of solar synthesis? Not solar synthesis, but through solar synthesis, through the flares that the sun is releasing. Maybe when it passed by the sun, it's going to release something into the sun that's going to disrupt the flares and cause a different frequency down here, which causes people to act differently. I'm not sure. But if she's saying what she's saying is right, and remote viewing is real, and different variations of people can tap into different variations of dimensions of their self, right? And if everybody's saying what they're saying, then this should come out to be very, very interesting. You know what I mean? Love is love. Namaste. Ashe. Salutations. Shalom. Peace. Holy Spirit, what's going on with you? Hope all is well, man. Hope all is well. Love is love. Appreciate you for stopping through.
Was not as publicized as the one in Roswell. The big mistake with the Roswell one was the newspaper printed it. And
Well-
so then they had to backtrack, and then they had to do the press conference where they had like some scattered pieces of a weather balloon that didn't look anything like a UFO.
And then
they
the
said,
Air
"Say
Force was like,
sorry."
that was nothing.
Yeah, but meanwhile they flew the wreckage to right field. They flew the wreckage, and Truman met them there, supposedly.
Well, I can tell you that in our hearing, we were actually notified, and you can pull this up. I think it was one of the witnesses had talked about what had happened at Vandenberg Air Base, where there was this thing that appeared over the base. It actually had multiple blotters reporting on it from phone calls into law enforcement from like hundreds of people. And whatever had appeared over the base was basically bigger than a football field and basically a red cube with some weird thing in the center of it. I actually had our witness draw this out. This guy is sober as a priest. I mean, was a great pilot. And he's talking about all this. And so, you talk about this stuff, it seems like a sci-fi movie. But based on the evidence that we've seen, I don't have any reason to believe that these people are lying. Based on the evidence that I've seen from our own government, I think that there's something there that the American people deserve to have access to. And so this is not just on this topic, but again, in other topics as well, this has been my perspective, is transparency is what builds trust. Other governments have revealed certain information on it. To think that we are the only, life form on this planet or in this galaxy, I think is a little bit crazy, given the fact that I also think God exists and that there's other creations. But then again, you get into this aspect of why is it that you also have this aspect of a certain religion that has been very controlled and I think rolled out in a certain aspect. And when you have certain books that are removed because they don't think that people should have access to this information or know it.
Listen.
Why remove a book from a Bible, right?
Listen.
Did Wes Huff, did he touch on that? Did he talk about that? Or are there people that don't believe the Book of Enoch was really a part of the Bible?
Imagine bringing.
Think about that. Think about that. The Book of Enoch. There was the books of the Apocryphy. There was so many other books.
Yeah,
I think we brought it up, but I don't remember how.
That's the guy to talk to.
Yeah, so but from what
That's
I
the guy to
gather,
talk to about it. You know what I mean? Because you have to really understand the history of the Bible to be able to figure out what's legitimate, what's not, why they put it into the New Testament. I had some very erroneous ideas about it until I talked to intelligent people that really know the history of it. And it's very strange stuff.
well, so from what I gather, and by the way, I'm not a theologian in any capacity, but just from my personal opinion on this. So
Say it.
you have the Ethiopian
Please say
Orthodox
it.
text, which has
Please
88
say
books in the
88
Bible,
books.
in total.
Boom.
But in the Ethiopian Orthodox
You see that?
text, it's basically
You hear what she said? 88 books, right? What did they get mad about when Hitler said when they find out what the Jewish people did, right? And this is where that 88 came from. 1488, all of that stuff. 88 books of the Bible, 88 constellations in the sky, as above, so below, as without, so within, so on and so forth, right? What Constantine hid, the trick, you know what I'm saying? The books of the Apocryphy, right? The Dead Sea Scrolls, books that were taken out, right? These were books that was pertaining to a key essence, or they couldn't take the chakra systems out of it. They couldn't take the alignment out of it. They couldn't take the connection with mankind out of it. As above, so below, as without, so within. So they tried to take as much as the as without, so within out of the Bible. They try to take as much as the as without, so within out of the Bible. So even though they tried to give you the story about the Bible or the story about mankind, they neglected the connection that's inside the vessel, right? The seed of Christ is known as an ointment, secretion, a secret, right? The seed that moves from your testicles up your spinal cord to your brain, or comes down from that garden to your testicles in order to create a secretion, right, of Christ, right? They tried to take as much out as possible, but they couldn't, right? That's why the words are there. Testa, meaning body, ment, meaning mental. Testa, meant. So the Old Testament was the old body and mind, and the New Testament was the new body and mind. So in the Old Testament, Christ was in representation of the 12th chakra, which is the crown chakra, right? Christ was known as the crown chakra. He was at, but later they changed it to the heart chakra, right? So they had to implement some sort of storyline that fits how they wanted to, pertain the story to be, right? If you go into the story of Apollonius, however you want to say it, if you go into the story of that first century Christ, then the story looks a little bit different. Because this is one thing that they argued about the Christ of the Bible is, hey, this story of Christ is similar to this first century persona. And why is this first century persona not being looked at more than Christ, who didn't come into the 16th century, right? 16th, but before that you had, the before Christ story, or BC era, and then you got AD, right? These different times and dates that Constantine changed, right? The lie that they tell you about the Mayans calendar. The Mayans calendar is not a calendar. The Mayans calendar is a picture of our galaxy. And I can prove it and I can show it to you, right? For the people that's on TikTok, I'll show you it right now. Watch this. Watch this. Look at the Mayans calendar, right? You see the Mayans calendar? You see the big sun in the middle? You see the direction of the flow? It's going clockwise, right? The blue arrows is going clockwise. This is when we changed to a Gregorian calendar. We took out we stopped the Dewey Decimal System, changed that up. So we stopped going into the circle of 60. That's why, when you go back to the Sumerian gods, Anu was known as 60. His son was known as 50. And his other son was known as 40. But the wives in between had the 5s because 0 was meant, it's a long story mathematically. But, you see the Mayans calendar right here, and you see it counts back 13, right? This is not a calendar. This is the sky. This is the 12 central zodiacs. The 13th is the one that sits at Hercules' foot, the foot of Hercules, right? That is what's known as the Christ constellation, right? They took that out of circulation. There was a time that we knew about the power of 13. We knew about Christ being the one that put the 12 together. We put it in our calendars, right? Soul. Literally, the name of the month that was taken out, right? What was the 13th month called? Soul. About the beginning of the 12th century, the pain was revealed that Moses B. Cottingsworth, who eliminated the superficial name, therefore specifically complained, the new 13th month was designed Soul, right? They mocked it, put it up under your feet. They mocked it, put it up under your feet, right? 10 months at a time. There were only 10 months in the calendar, while there were just over 12 lunar cycles in a year. The months of January and February were added to the calendar, and the original 5th and 6th months was renamed July and August in honor of Julius Caesar and his successor Augustus, right? So July and August was put and added to the calendar. There was 10 months to the calendar, but they added 2 more, right? But the lunar cycle was 12, right? This is where we come into the Aquarius sky at. The time that we're in right now, right? So under the Aquarius sky, this is the outcome. And I ain't even gonna talk about the missing and the skipping dates that was in the timeline. We ain't gonna talk about that. We gonna wait. But let's go back to the Mayans calendar real quick. The Mayans calendar is a picture of our galaxy. So in our central 12, we have the 12 you see and the 12 you don't see. That makes up 24. That's why it's 24 hours in a day. Each cycle passed 2 hours into every zodiac, which makes up the 24 hours in a day, right? So the 24 hours in a day is considered to be the 12 you see and the 12 you don't see. The 12 you see is the central 12 zodiacs, the central 12 constellations. That's the 12 you see. The 12 you don't see is the 6 that's in the north and the 6 that's in the south. That makes up the 12 you don't see, right? So it's the 12 you see and the 12 you don't see. As above, so below, as without, so within. Duality, people. Duality, right? So now that all of this knowledge is being pushed back into this universe, y'all want to fight the knowledge that's being pushed back into this universe, right? The Mayans calendar was a picture of the galaxy. It showed you our central 12, and then it showed you the other constellations that's outside of our 12. There's 48 constellations outside of our 12, and then there's 88 constellations outside of that, right? So when you look at it, this is like the Mayans calendar, right? The galaxy, right? The 12 you see, the 12 you don't see, right? And then when you get further into it, you will then see this. This is the other galaxy. This is the whole thing. The Milky Way galaxy, this is the whole thing. But we're within inside this. We're here, right? And then right there, that little gold orb that you see, that sits at the foot of Hercules. That's the Golden Gate. That's the gate that Christ says he goes into. Instead of going into the silver gate that's on the other side, he went to this gate. He was telling everybody how to reincarnate through this gate. They didn't like that because that's where you reincarnate through the gate of the gods. They didn't want people to go in that direction and find that golden gate, so they created the false light, right? They created the false light, the silver gate. That's why in the book of Ecclesiastes, it tells you the silver cord will be severed. Yes, it's also talking about the umbilical cord because as above, so below, as without, so within. So the same process that takes place when man is brought into this world is the same process that takes place in the universe. You can either reincarnate through the silver gate of man, right? Or you can reincarnate through the golden gate of the gods. They never wanted you to know about the golden gate of the gods, right? They only wanted you to know about the silver. So now that our whole galaxy is moving towards that central galaxy, now they want to try to disclose certain variations of information pertaining to this. Do y'all get it? Ones in the chat if y'all get it. Ones in the chat. Let me see some ones in the chat if you understand. Ones in the chat.
Kind of like a mainline OG version of the Bible. And then sometime in the 4th century, there was actually a group that came together and they removed certain books. And the story goes that Revelations actually had replaced Enoch. And so it's interesting because when you're looking kind of full circle on, you hear the stuff that some of these people are talking about, and then you see and you read the Book of Enoch, which is a wild read, okay? And then you look at kind of what our modern day description is of what angels and entities are versus what Enoch was seeing and reporting in his language and ability at that time. I think that there's a lot that brings you to then ask the question, well, why would they remove this information if it's truly,
Because the Book of Enoch was writing about a time that was to come. The Book of Enoch was preparing us for the Aquarius sky. All the books that was preparing us for the Aquarius sky, for the time that we in right now, they took out of the Bible. Any book that was preparing us to deal with entities, energies inside of vessels, the soul of man, the 72 demons of the soul of mankind, any books that had anything referring to that was taken out. Every book that was telling you that you got to conquer the waters and the waters will rise within inside the vessel and different entities will take over your vessel. Different beings will commandeer your vessel. Anything in the Bible that was talking about that stuff, they took out.
Written in part of the oldest Bible in the world, why would they then take it out and water it down? And I'm not saying that you can't find God through the new Bible, right? Like everyone's on their own spiritual journey, and I think everyone can pray and can access God. But I just find that very interesting. And so what I
If
will
we
say
talk
is
about
that
the Ethiopian
I like
Bible,
to
we
have
got to
the
go
whole
back to
kind of,
Zechariah Stitchens and
picture in
the
front of me, and so I feel like
Sumerian
to fully
gods.
understand A through Z, you kind of have to be able to read it.
This is an ad for BetterHelp. The internet
Okay.
is a breeding.
So if you're gonna go back that far, you got to go back to, you know, to that. Just saying. You know, you can't go back to the Ethiopian Bible without going back to the Sumerians, right? The Sumerians surpassed the Ethiopian Bible. In fact, the knowledge that they talking about right now that they've been keeping from the American people, it goes back further than all the other books that's here, right? That's why I'm telling you about Apollonius. It's first century. They can't hide the universal knowledge that's coming in right now. They can't hide it. They can't stop it from being poured in. Now, disclosure wise, they can slow it down, right? You know, we're talking about a lot of different variations of things. All right? We're talking about a lot of different variations of things right here when you talk about full disclosure. Okay? When you talk about full disclosure, you're talking about a lot of different stuff. That's why I say make sure y'all hit the follow button. Make sure y'all hit the follow button. I'm kind of a little banned on my main page right now because a little shadow ban, but I'm gonna just play the game over there. But if we're gonna talk about the stuff over here, then let's talk about it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Make sure y'all following the page. Keep me in circulation now. Put your notification on now. Come on, TikTok. Come on, TikTok. Do what we do. Do what we do, TikTok. Which direction do y'all want me to tell this story? Which level of understanding are you looking for? Come on now. Work with me here. How you want me to tell it? We got many different ways we could talk about this. Let me know. Huh? There's so much.
Well, I'm not saying that aliens created mankind. I don't believe that, because I, at the end of the day, believe that God is responsible for our creation. But I do think that what we've been programmed to believe in regards to our ability to be able to use our mind, the spiritual aspect of us, really does exist. And I think that once you kind of remove yourself out of this basically rat race and you can really reconnect with that, I think that that's when you kind of realize, hey, there's a bigger purpose here in life, and what is our end objective. And if you're given a position of influence or a position of power and you're not doing the right thing for humanity, you're not guiding people, then that's something that you have to answer for. So I want to make sure that I'm good with God.
I hear you.
Listen to that. Listen to that. You heard what she said? If you're given a platform and you're not leading people the right way, you're not doing what's right, then that's something you got to deal with. I want to make sure I'm good with God, right? God as I know it, the universe as I know it. I want to make sure that I'm good with the universe inside myself, that I did everything and operated in the best of my ability, whatever limited ability it might be. Because I'm not financially there to be able to do something, or financially able, doesn't mean I don't have the will to actually get up and go do something, to go actually get up and put myself in the operation to go help somebody, right? There's a lot of people, when hurricane season come, when different things come, people jump in their car all the time and go help and go do this and do that, right? But, the internet's so hell-bent on negativity that when they actually see a helper in this world, right, instead of saying, damn, that motherfucker actually just going out, he actually going out there helping people the best way he can. Nah, fuck that. Tear that down. The internet's undefeated with that. We know that. But here's somebody telling you that on a higher level, this spiritual, psychological warfare is going on. The same thing you see taking place with people on the internet right now. All spiritual people are being attacked. Anyone who's having a greater notion of their self, of a higher level of unity coming into their collective mind, coming into an understanding of a greater collective notion of oneself, they're being attacked psychologically. Because they're playing, they're gaslighting, they're making you think that you're this, and think whenever you speak out on this, you speak out on that, you got a group of people that are gather around you and try to, you sound crazy, you think you sound this, you sound that, right? But here's a Congresswoman explaining it to you guys.
I think these stories.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe if y'all hear from somebody higher, y'all will have a deeper understanding for it.
In basically every religion, they're real similar. They're real similar. I think all of these people are trying to document a truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what is that truth? Is what
Listen to yourself then. Go get the learning for yourself.
And giants created man.
Well,
and
Enoch talks about
man.
that.
Yeah, well, I know.
Which is crazy.
I know. It's wild stuff. If it's legitimate, it's wild stuff. And then, do you know anything about the Ethiopian church that supposedly has the Ark of the Covenant in it?
Yes.
I actually
yes.
wanted to, and again,
the Ark of the Covenant is in Ethiopia.
Yeah. So I actually wanted to do a Codel to just, but of course, like we're focusing on other things right now, right?
Seals, find that fucking
I was
thing.
like, I need to pay for this for myself, so we're not using taxpayer dollars, but just go check it out. What's interesting is the CIA allegedly located the Ark of the Covenant
in a mountain.
Remote viewed.
They remote viewed it. You can actually find that. You should actually pull
Ethiopia?
it up. No, not in Ethiopia, but it was in a Middle Eastern country. They weren't able to locate the actual. I think the New York Post did an article on it where they actually have the handwritten notes on the Ark of the Covenant location, and they remote viewed it. You should ask them to pull it up. Yeah, I'm serious about it.
Did they go there and see if they were correct?
I don't know. They did. I don't know. This is like Indiana Jones.
What?
But...
Decades-old CIA documents on Ark of the Covenant resurfaced amid classified group text spat. What?
Wait, like, yeah.
Was a group text argument that caused this stuff to be released?
No, check out, pull up the New York Post one, because they actually have the handwritten notes from the remote viewer that actually documents it.
Okay.
It should be, I think it's like the New York Post.
That's so funny.
See that?
Oh, there you go. Top one. This is wild because it actually goes into descriptions of angels too. And so actually, so in Enoch it talks about, well, if you scroll down, now you can probably click on the scribe because it'll show you all the documents from the actual declassified file. This is also on CIA.gov.
What year was this?
This happened recently. This was like a couple months ago that this just kind of came all out.
Right, but what year was this project?
1988.
88.
5 December 1988.
Wow.
So scroll down.
So in 88 they found the Ark of the Covenant?
Allegedly they remote viewed it. We don't know if they followed up.
Who was
on
president back then? Reagan?
Go down.
Bush?
Senior. Okay, so scroll down and then you'll see that. So this is like
Look,
so they're going
gateway.
through it, you have to read it, but you can scroll down. This is kind of.
So he's like drawing where it is.
The remote viewer. So you have like the different things that are describing it, and if you keep going, you'll see like a cherubim. Keep going.
It's like showing the peak of.
Oh wait.
Sorry, right, go up.
So that's interesting because if you look into actual, so there's like a wheel text. You look into Enoch's description of angels and Ezekiel too. I think
that's what they say right there. So in the book of Enoch, right? They say that Enoch looked up and he seen they say it was like a chariot, right? But it was actually 4 things spinning, right? It was 4 different things spinning. These things were parts of the brain, the 4 different parts of the brain, kind of like you see right here, right? And they were spinning. And in the middle of this was the seat of God. That's what the book of Enoch explains. The book of Enoch said that each beast was spinning, for they were, it was a gateway, and, this was the gateway to, so on and so forth, and they were protecting it, so on and so forth. The book of Enoch explains this. Now, they say they took the book of Enoch out and replaced it with Revelations. Now, the book of Revelations reveal a lot, especially the book of Revelations 17, 1 through 7. The book of Revelation 17, 1 through 7 is literally telling you about Mystery Babylon and the beast, the prostitute that sits by the waters. And the book somewhere after you read 1 through 7, after it tells you about that, I think around 13 or 15, it tells you what the waters are. It tells you that the waters are the multitude, the people, the languages, the nations, right? So if you go back and you say, okay, this is the book of Revelations, it's revealing things, and it just revealed what the waters are, right? Now, does that apply to the whole book, that the people are the water, the multitude, the nations, the languages? Because if so, now we have to go back to Moses separating the waters. At that time, was the waters represented by the people, the multitude, the nations, the languages? I'm just saying, if the book of Revelations reveals that the people is the water, the languages, the multitude, and the nations, then Wait. Let's go back further than Moses. When God gathered the water, was he gathering the people, the multitude, the languages, and the nations? Whoa. This is getting deep. Let's just keep listening, though. Let's just keep listening.
Actual.
We'll figure it out as we go.
Container.
We'll
They should
figure
have
it
like
out.
a cherubim drawing somewhere down here. Okay, so that would be the seraphim. So it's
That would
interesting.
be the what?
The seraphim.
Seraphim. Now, when you get into I'm gonna break this down, because when you get into the Jewish book, it tells you that it was cherubs and seraphim. The seraphim sat and they protected the gate or protected the throne, so on and so forth, right? These were cherubs, seraphims, whatever. They sat in the higher part of the atmosphere or the higher part of the realms, however you look at this. And the Book of Enoch tells you about this. And, there was cherubs that was in the lower parts. There were cherubs. If you read the book it says the water, in the water, when God separated the water, in the lower waters was cherubs. And then the higher waters was seraphims. You can look it up. You can go read the Torah or the Tanakh, whatever.
Yeah, so basically when they describe the ark, and so he's going through describing, so these are the hand notes for it, and then it actually says that it's in a Middle Eastern country. The remote viewer describes the clothing in which individuals are in the area. I feel like I'm describing like an
No,
Indiana
stop
Jones movie,
emoji
but this is actually
spamming.
from the CIA.
You're gonna
This
get clipped.
Image, scroll back to where that. What is that thing? Is that the corner of the box?
The covenant, yeah, he's describing, if you go up, and these are actually the handwritten notes on what was described by the remote viewer, and you have to go through the entire document, but yeah, that's what's described surrounding the ark.
Do you know what
What's
they
going
asked
on
him
with
to
you?
find?
Ricky.
Well, it's the Ark of the Covenant.
They
You can
asked
find it
him
in
to
the
go
document.
look for the Ark
Yeah,
of the
it's
Covenant.
in. If you
Yeah,
go higher
follow
in the
back.
documents, it's over there.
Right, but if you ask me to go look for the Ark of the Covenant, like, I know what I'm
Yeah,
looking
follow back, Ricky.
Right.
Appreciate the
Well,
rose.
Apparently these
put it
remote
in my
viewers.
hand, I draw what I think it's gonna, like, show me that they fucking found it. You
I
know?
don't know if they did, but they.
I don't know if they
apparently
did
tried.
either, but it's like, it's interesting, but it's not as interesting because you're saying, show me the Ark of the Covenant, right? So he's drawing what we all saw in Indiana Jones.
Or can you locate it? So the
What year was
description.
that? That was before Indiana Jones?
It'd have been in the same time period. Like,
When did Indiana Jones come out?
Because they have to tell you it.
The 90s, right?
That's why they have to tell you it.
And like the first two are the best.
Raiders of the Lost Ark was the first one. Yeah, that's the one. What year was
No.
1981.
that? Okay.
The Ark of the Covenant is not in your pioneer. The Ark of the Covenant is stuck, right? So the Ark of the Covenant is stuck in your sacral chakra. Because the waters are stuck in your sacral chakra. You're not moving your hormonal fluid up your spinal cord. So it's stuck in your sacral chakra. And they keep on emptying it, right? It's considered to be the lower part of the river. The Egyptians called it, when the Egyptians called it, it was literally the lower half of the river. So they found a way to keep it in the root chakra so it's not going up to push this ark upward. That's why it's in Ethiopia. If the ark moves, if everybody moves, the Ark of the Covenant will move back to its original place, right? So they will give it back to its original descendant owner, right? It's hidden in Ethiopia for the reason until one comes into the realization of who it actually belongs to, right? So the Ark of the Covenant is hidden from these Canaanites, these Emomites, whatever you want to call them. There's different storylines for this stuff, right? So the Ark of the Covenant, let me see if I can get you a good, did I take it off? I'm 21 when our life had just begun. So many things to see and all right, I gotta find it. Okay, I don't think it's in this. It should have been. I didn't delete it. Shit, I deleted it. Freak. Who the freak is it? Dang it. This world gone gray, but I know one thing. All right, I gotta find it for you at a later time to show you. I'm sorry, TikTok. I gotta find it for you at a later time to show you. But yeah, so they found a way to stop the flow of the dam, the flow of the river, the flow of the. It's in the body. It's inside the vessels of mankind. So they found a way to trap the seed below the sacral chakra. This is where that prostitute comes in. This is why certain knowledge is not given to you, right? But there was books of people who knew that, by eating the meats that, it was, an unenlivening thing. And there was people who knew this is why the Last Supper was actually put in order, because the Last Supper was this group of people that Christ put together. They were all going to fast, right? Because they were going to eat from the sun, right? So they were putting fruits and vegetations inside of them, vegetables, stuff like that. So there was a time that they were going to stop eating unleavened bread, because it was creating, with the fructose that was inside the stomach, it was creating like hooch, like your stomach was creating hooch. So people, they knew the process of the body, so they were trying to, and he was teaching people this stuff. You can look it up. This ain't a lie. You can look it up. You can look it up for yourself. Look up, I don't know what to tell you to look up. You're gonna look up different things, but that's why when they asked him, he said, "Is it not written that ye are gods?" That's why he said that. He said, "Is it not written in ye laws that ye are gods?" When they asked him about the coin, he said that coin has Caesar's face on there. They said, "Give to Caesar which is Caesar's," which was pertaining to materialistic things. Give to man, which is man's, because that's materialistic. But give to God, which is God, which is the soul, the spirit. And you can only do that by going through the mind. That's why the book of Revelations tell you that a man can only grow in the mind and the spirit. He can't grow in the mind and the spirit until he is physically placed on this earth. So in order to grow in the mind and the spirit, you have to have a physical vessel in order to do it in, right? So when you get your physical vessel, it's up to you to grow in your mind and your spirit. It's not up to me to help you grow. Like, you gotta want to grow in your mind and your spirit. That's the only way. That's why Christ was the threshold. Only through me can you get to the Father, because you had to want to grow in the spirit. A lot of y'all don't want to grow in the spirit. A lot of y'all don't want to admit that Christ is inside of us. Y'all don't want to admit it, because then you have to be more Christ-like. But it feels so much better to be anti-Christ-like. That's why you're a follower of the Antichrist.
So,
Precursor.
So that's 7 years earlier. Everybody saw that movie 100 times. You know what it looks like. You know what the ark looks like. So if I tell you, go draw me the ark, where's it at?
You think
all we have is some scribbles on paper, unless they actually went there and found it.
Well, what's interesting, and I should probably ask Radcliffe, Radcliffe, can you tell me this? I never looked into the Ark of the Covenant.
What are you saying, Jerry?
It says the mission is to access and describe the target identified by coordinate, and then there's coordinates. The tasking is to see mission statement. Training target is the Ark of the Covenant.
So they did say, go find us the Ark of the Covenant. And then this dude apparently said, keep AOL to a minimum. What is that?
I saw that on the paper earlier.
Have to be careful with editing, though. This does not seem to be a problem at this time, just something to watch for. Attained excellent sight contact. Okay.
Definitely interesting.
Well, it's weird that they're talking about it like it's a real talent, like someone can actually do it.
Well,
some people can actually do it. They actually caught people because of these remote viewings. They actually.
The target is fashioned of wood, gold.
That's why they're accepting this.
Shape to AOL. So that's that something of location, right? Is that what it means?
Area of location.
Yeah, that's it. Coffin. It is decorated with the seraphim. See sketch. This target is located somewhere in the Middle East, as the language spoken by individuals present seemed to be Arabic. Well, wouldn't you want someone who could fucking decipher Arabic to do this?
We don't know how far it went, and I definitely have questions, but this would not be the first time that a government would have looked for something, especially because people theorize that the Ark of the Covenant had these abilities as a super weapon.
I know, but I'm saying, like, the remote viewer is limited by his ability to understand the language. Stop, scroll back up, please. There, right there. So, it's somewhere in the Middle East, visuals of surrounding buildings indicated that the area, the presence of mosque domes. Individuals in the area were clothed in virtually all white, had black hair and dark eyes. One figure I honed in on wore a mustache. The target is hidden underground, dark and wet, where all aspects
let me
of
take
the
this
location of the
backdrop
target.
down.
See, the only problem I ever have with these things is if these places are all controlled by terrorists and it's all, dictators and crazy people over there. If they found out that the Ark was there, they would fucking take it.
Well, I think there's this aspect of, if you look at it from a biblical perspective, no one would be able to access it anyways because it would be protected, right? That's what the Bible says.
Cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct.
Oh, Jesus.
Cannot be open until the time is deemed correct.
To open the container, the mechanisms of lock systems will be found to be fairly simple. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed by the container's protectors.
Well, it's interesting is, remember, in the Bible, it always talks about how there had to be like a...
Through the use of a power unknown to us.
They built you.
Bro, yeah.
Well, so they had to,
In the
go
movie.
through this special process of being considered, holy, basically, to access it. So all that to say that there's something out there, right? I think that obviously God's real, and this job has definitely, put me in a position to where we're able to help get other truths out there, if you will. And
you need to get the truth of that thing out there. They need to find out, like,
Dear
that.
Director
Like,
Ratcliffe,
you know
as
how
you
much
look into
the
the Ark of
world
the
would
Covenant.
change if you found the actual Ark of the Covenant, and you could explain a lot of things, like if these Ethiopians have it, which Graham Hancock believes.
Allegedly, they do.
Yeah, Graham Hancock believes that they do. And he said that these guardians, they all get cataracts, they die of like radiation poisoning.
I mean, there's something to be said about the Ethiopian people as a whole, and going back to the Ethiopian Orthodox text. Actually, when I first launched this task force, I actually went and I met with a Ethiopian Orthodox pastor, if you will, to kind of see and explain and ask questions that I can't exactly go to, the Smithsonian and ask. And, his response was interesting, especially from their perspective. You have a lot of this aspect of, I think, religion that tries to be doom and gloom, and then in the Ethiopian perspective, he's like, first of all, your timeline's wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean your timeline's like, well, the biblical text in modern day Christianity, it's a little bit off, right? So we use a completely separate,
A lot of it
364 days out of the year, and he's explaining all of it, and he's like, but even then, so we don't have the perspective of, we are in the end of days, etc.
Thank you.
But the way his
Thank
perspective just
you.
seemed very
He said there's no
optimistic,
end.
as opposed to pessimistic,
There's
and
no end.
filtering and controlling information.
You guys have an idea of an end. There's no end. Everything is just a new beginning.
He's off X, he's off TikTok.
Ethiopian.
The New York Post thing about that says that the viewer was identified with the target and didn't know what it was. And
Back to the Ark of the Covenant.
Explanation we found.
Oh, well, that's much different. So that whole thing at the end of it was what they were saying it was when they wrote it in that
Look
report.
at all the, it's just a bunch of words they're putting together and
Got it.
hearing how put off.
Yeah,
Okay.
13
Well,
months.
that's way more interesting.
Well, we're
If you
like
didn't know what
10
he was looking
10
for, and you found something that looked like the Ark of the Covenant. That's pretty crazy.
They kind of like talk them on, right? They'll like give them something and say,
In
like,
Ethiopia, they're
well,
still in
I'm just doing devil's
2015,
advocate,
16.
I have no
2016 now,
I
I think.
don't know if it's real or not real. I'm open to it. I think there's something going on. I think there's more going on with people than we let on. There's some extra thing that's happening with human beings, the way we're all connected to each other, that we don't really totally understand. And I think
Did you hear what he said? There's something happening with human beings, and I think we're all connected to each other, and we don't really know what's going on. Right? I keep saying this. Right?
idea that you can access information that's not local. I don't think that's that weird. I think that might be an emerging aspect of human consciousness, or an aspect of human consciousness that's atrophied.
Or just an aspect of spirituality that we've previously forgotten, because we're in such a digital age that kind of programs you into the rat race. And I think people, the more that they're kind of like, there has to be more to life than just like a 9 to 5. And, working for this aspect of materialism, like, don't get me wrong, I like, a nice car and a clean house and all that. But there's also this aspect of being a human, and like, if you have kids, I think that's like one of the things. Like, you have a daughter, I have a son, and it's like when you're a parent, it kind of like makes you realize, like, wow, there's this aspect of like love that I didn't know existed before, and you can kind of really be there and help grow this next human and influence that person. And it just kind of, the human experience is something that you can make it as special as you want. And this aspect of us being able to have those little quantum breadcrumbs is what I like to call them. Like, have you ever been like,
listen to the words she's using,
go somewhere, hear something, and there's like confirmation of what you've been talking about, or something happens and you're like asking a question, and all of a sudden it pops up, kind of there's the answer. And I think that those little things just mean you're on the right path and doing what you're supposed to do in this bigger picture.
Come on.
Yeah, well, it's a good way to live life.
Hold on, collective. Hold on. I want to apologize to my collective, because I feel like we was on the right path. I feel like we was, journeying towards that level of unity, of connected consciousness. And I feel like, through whatever level of feelings and emotions that I allow certain situations to that it affected the collective greatly, and I apologize, because my response is always not the right response. But all of this espionage stuff that's going on, this, I get it. I get what y'all doing on YouTube. I get it. Y'all got it. Y'all got it. Y'all want negative. Y'all can only grow with negative. Y'all can only beef, and y'all can't. But we got greater things to move towards. We got a greater level of unity that we should be moving towards, And for everybody out there that feel like I'm beefing with them, feel like they need to tear me down, look, I apologize for whatever it is that you found a disdainment me with, but I got to move forward with peace and positivity and unity, you know what I mean? So, you guys go ahead. We're going to continue to grow in the collective, and continue to get the like-minded people that want to unite, that want to see past color, that want to see past, there's more to life than just this physical world. And we were showing and leading in levels of examples of that by being a service to other people. And we can't let this situation stop us from being a service to other people. We have to move forward. We have to get, so we are moving. We're going back to Cobos Landing, and we're going to build it ourselves with, with the people down there from the ground up. With them, they already got a little bit going. They already got some stuff going. We're going to go down there and continue this journey. We're going to start posting it on TikTok. Like I said, I'm still going to keep you guys posted like I am now, with the knowledge, the wisdom, and everything like that. But the journey must continue. We're just going to continue it on the TikTok pages. So right now we're on Energy Atlas, not the Energy of Atlas, which is the main page, and we'll be on there later playing the game. But the Energy Atlas page, we're on that page right now for anybody on YouTube that want to go over to TikTok and, help tap the screen over there or whatever. So we're going to move this journey. Not, we're still going to talk over here. We're still going to, put the music out there if we, whatever the case may be. We're still going to, distribute the Atlas music. We're still going to, the Atlas studios are still going to run. Just the situations that you guys, try to manipulate in an ugly light has affected, real people's lives. And we got to move forward with peace and positivity. We're not upset about nobody that felt like they need to look into it. And look, y'all welcome to go wherever y'all want to go. I appreciate the time that y'all did spend. But I just want anybody who's not trying to be of positivity, not trying to get out of that cycle of negativity, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys just, depart from the Discord. I want to separate myself from all things negative, all things negative. So if you are part of the negative group that is, you know, coming into the Discord, doing whatever, you know, we strongly ask that you separate. We're going to push, and all of our conversations from here on out will be based off of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. We do have lawyers about the situation. Freeman is in rehab right now, so there's a lot of paperwork being pushed on that part. A lot of things that we can't speak about due to adult protective services and people trying to make phone calls on behalf of Freeman, all due to the internet. So because they chose the wrong side, now they're secretly making all of these phone calls on behalf of Freeman, and Freeman in rehab. But they don't want to be wrong so bad that they making all of these phone calls trying to interrupt Shar's life, so on and so forth, and Levi's life, and so on and so forth, sending child services out there, all of this crazy stuff. So we're going to gratefully bow out with that beef or whatever it is that they called it or created it. And, you know, if they want that victory that bad where they got to put, you know, false whatever on people, false spins on people, then they can have it. The truth is about to come out, and the truth is going to be more shocking. And we're going to keep you updated on that. But right now, we're just going to move back into peace and knowledge and wisdom, and, you know, pulling the people in from TikTok. So TikTok, y'all make sure y'all copy the link. Copy the link, put it in your browser, and join the Discord. All you got to do is click on the link tree in the bio, or click on the link that's in the bio where it says Lemonade and something else. And something else is the Discord. So just copy that Discord link, put it in your browser, and it's going to bring you straight over to the Discord. So everybody just come on over to the Discord, and, you know, we rebuilding, we're reamping, we're you know, reforming the Discord. So I need positive, like-minded people that want to journey down the, you know, path of understanding for a greater level of unity on this planet and or the next. You know what I mean? However you want to look at this, we have to become greater with inside of ourselves and unify with one another. That's looking past color, that's looking past, you know, a lot of y'all got anger towards men, so y'all don't, you know what I mean? A lot of y'all got anger towards, you know, different variations of color. You know, a lot of y'all got anger towards women. A lot of y'all, you know, you gotta let all of that go and just be willing to unify. You know, we're all in this shit together. We're all going through this shit together. Our minds are changing, you know. And even though all of these different complications and divisive mechanisms are in the world, it doesn't mean we are outside of each other, right? You know, there's no me without you, and vice versa, right? So that's what, you know, will be done is all about. It's the vice versa mechanism, you know, vice versa. So vice versa means that, you know, namaste. If there's a God in me, there's a God in you, and I recognize that God in you, and I don't mean no harm towards that God in you. A lot of human experience comes with a lot of problematic things and a lot of transforming of energies, and a lot of, you know, when you put somebody in their masculine energy, they feel like they got to stay in that, and they got to stay fighting with people in order to, you know, make progress in this world. I never felt like I should continue fighting with people because I never aimed to please people. Either, you know, we're going to do what's right and that's it, or we can depart. I shouldn't have to appease other people's feelings and emotions for them to do what's right. They should want to do what's right. They should have the will to do what's right. But I can't appease people's feelings and emotions. I can't, please. You know, a lot of people want to break you, and then after they break you, then they feel like they can build you back up after they break you. But we're going to skip past all of that. We're going to stay in the level of enlightenment. We're going to stay in a level of understanding. We know that everybody have the right to operate how they operate, and we apologize that we interfered with anybody else's operation. And we're going to go back to our operation, right, which is love and light and knowledge and wisdom. So at this time, I am going to ask the mods on YouTube to block anyone who is speaking of the negative, right? Anyone who's trying to speak of the negative, block them. They're not looking for clarity. They're not looking for understanding. They're not looking for understanding. They're not looking for the truth. So let's stop playing this game, right? Anyone who's serious about this journey, serious about what we're doing, you know, you're welcome to stay. But we're going to branch off of that and put this whole thing in a different, we're going to a different sector, whether you like it or not, okay? So come over to TikTok, help us build the TikTok pages, help us build the social media, the social media, help us build the management, all of that stuff, because we moving on to greater things. We not about to sit here and get caught in some, ooh, they talking bad about, man, listen, they've been trying to do that since the beginning of all of this, since December, January, February. You watched all of their different levels of it fail. You watched all of it fail. From the time that they said the sister wives and we were slinging D in the Discord to the time that they lied and said there was CP in the Discord, every fucking thing that they tried has failed. So this too will be seen into truth and light. And that's why they're not reporting on Freeman anymore, because they know that they tested him and that motherfucker's in rehab right now for other shit. And they know what's going on. They know we was telling the truth, and that's why they got to make up more shit in order to fit their lie. But it's okay though. We're gonna move forward. Love is love. Namaste, Ashe, salutation, shalom. And anyone who has, exited, I appreciate you for exiting. I apologize if you feel like I waste your time. I apologize if you feel like, I don't appreciate your support. I greatly did. I greatly do. And I apologize that you feel that way. Your feelings are valid. And due to the understanding that I have of you feeling that way, I harvest no feelings of you leaving the Discord. So please, if you feel a certain type of way, please depart from the Discord. We are moving into a positive light. We are moving into a positive collective, enlightened collective. We only want knowledge. We come for a level of understanding. We are sharing this human experience with other beings down here that don't want the same thing that we want. So we can't get caught up in what these other beings want. We have to remember the goal. We have to remember what it's about, and we have to stay focused and move in a level of knowledge and enlightenment, because we have to give this knowledge back to the people. That's what a ascendant master is. An ascendant master is one who gives the knowledge back from the universe and gives it back to the people. And that's what you're seeing right now, all these different variations of disclosure that's coming out. The problem is these people don't want me in the physical operation of unity, because they know what happens when you unify, right? So they know the network, the nation that you can build if there was a positive light on you. So they got to try to throw dirt on you. So because they can't, they can't figure me out, they can't find out nothing, they making up shit, right? So they're using somebody else's situation as a way to try to tear me down, so on and so forth. And that's okay, because that's the duality, right? You'll rather see a black person in a bad light before you see him in a good light. I shared my kids' graduation with y'all. I shared my sister's or my nephew's 6th grade, student graduation with y'all. We literally walked this journey together, right? So for everybody who's trying to still put a bad bone on me, kudos for you. Keep trying, keep trying. We've only just begun, and I promise you, I'm gonna make it difficult for you. You're not gonna stop this love. You're not gonna stop this unity, and I'm gonna make it difficult for you. So, and for the people that's on TikTok, you can go follow me on YouTube too, on Ralph DaWise. That's Ralph DaWise. We're live over there too. You can introduce yourself to that crew. They're a little bit toxic. I ain't gonna lie. It's a little bit toxic in the sector that I'm in. It's the Jaguar Wright sector. We've been beefing with Jaguar Wright and all of her, little minions. And, even the people who beefing with Jaguar Wright is beefing with us. Because they feel like, this is their sector, and, they feel seniority on this sector, and they feel like I shouldn't have came over here, and so on and so forth. So all of them have, got it in their mind that some way, somehow, they're going to, you know, paint me out to be a false light. So they got a job to do, we got a job to do, and we're going to continue moving forward with love, light, unity, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Like I said, North Carolina, here we come. We are on our way back down to Cobos Landing to build down there and finish what we started. So love is love. Appreciate y'all for trying. Another failed attempt. Try again. All right. So moving forward.
That's healthy, smart. It's like a good strategy. I wonder, like, why some people seem to have, like, the idea of it being an emerging aspect of human consciousness, our ability to, like, sense things and know things that are going to happen, or
Premonition,
or know someone's a liar or a weirdo, like, instantly. I always wonder if is it that, or is it that we used to have that, like, before language, that's all we had?
I think that before tech really evolved, there was a bigger aspect of spirituality that actually talks about that. So, like, discernment in the Bible, you can talk about, you know, this aspect of being, people say, like, oh, if someone has, like, really bad energy, you're picking up on it.
Listen to what they're saying.
But I think that because, and it's really
So
happening.
they talked about it in the Bible.
Years where people are kind of forgetting that. But when you actually go back to, like, for example, we're talking just now about the Ark of the Covenant, the Ethiopian Orthodox text and all this. There's more of that aspect of spirituality that I think has been removed from society. I think it's actually taken away our ability to really respect one another and value human life. And I think that Politico perspective influences decision. Like, you get really pro-war people. Those people are usually not that spiritual, and they don't have a value for life.
You know what? Listen. I just, in this moment, I feel like I should have more gratitude than anything. Is because this, if anything, this Congresswoman is confirming everything that I've been saying. You know, whether I've been in my feelings about something or not, whether some stuff has been, you know, happening, whether people been playing manipulation games or whatever, this Congresswoman is confirming everything that I've been saying, all the stuff I've been trying to teach y'all about chakra systems, having a level of understanding, practicing good words, practicing good thoughts, so that way you can have a good outcome in reality. Using Nikola Tesla 369 process as if to give yourself 30 days of just thinking and talking good and being in positive, you know, and then see the outcome of that, so on and so forth. Like, everything that she's saying, the things that I've been teaching people, this is confirmation to keep going. Yes, they're going to stop supporting you. Yes, they're going to find a way to step away. Yes, they're going to find a way to distance themselves from you. Yes, they're going to find a way to stop believing in you. But keep going, keep going, keep going. So that's why, you know, I thank the universe for moments like this, because these moments are happening faster. You can ask the universe for something, take a nap, and wake up, and the universe is like, here you go. Hey, what the hell? Hold on. I'm telling you. You could ask the universe for something, go to sleep, wake up, here you go. Your dream state is actually providing a lot more for you in this reality than you think. When you go to sleep with something heavy on your mind, heavy in your thought, right? Your dream state is trying to fix these things. Your dream state is trying to help you. If you go to sleep heavy in fear, all of that stuff, and you're going to keep on finding yourself circulating in that, right? You go to sleep in problems, you're going to wake up, keep on waking up in problems. You go to sleep with trying to find solutions. The universe inside of you is going to give you solutions to these things. See you through it. Some people are going to say it's a premonition. Some people are going to say you foreseeing the future. A lot of people that's having these abilities, they're speaking to people who don't believe them, thus far getting put in a sane asylum, so on and so forth, right? But some of this stuff you just got to keep to yourself. If you are having some sort of premonition about the future that you see, right, the best thing you could do is avoid those things. When you try to save other people from their future, they'll put you in the place of their, you know what I'm saying? For real. When you try to save other people from their future, if somebody, you know, is about to be damned or so on and so forth, right? And you sitting there trying to save them, right? They'll push you in the way. These people are survivalists. They are not, essential beings. They are not, they are not in a higher realm of their self. They can't practice a level of servitude to others. They don't get, they get fed, they fed the ego of their self, right? So they're in their ego, They not benefiting boosting somebody else up. See, over here at the Atlas family, we benefit from seeing other people make it. We benefit from seeing other people do, be greater, right? That's why we help so many people already. That's why they can't figure out where the fuck is his finances. No matter how much we tamper with his pride or his ego, he will not reveal how he's doing everything that he's doing. We need to find out how he's able to move around so freely. We need to find out how he's able to get places and do the things that he's doing. How is he doing it? That's what y'all trying to figure out. That's what y'all trying to figure out. Oh, all this bullshit. I thought it was his land. I thought they put together the money and bought the land. We didn't know that it was Freeman's. We didn't know that they were out there on Freeman's land. We didn't know that. We thought it was his. We thought they bought it. Shut up, lying asses. Oh, remain positive. Don't drift back into that. Stop drifting back into that. Remain positive. Stay on the... All right. One's in the chat. One's in the chat. 1111 in the chat. Remind me to
unfortunate.
Stay positive.
University makes it.
Remind me to stay positive. One's in the chat. One's in the chat. One's in the chat. Remind me to stay positive.
And the fact that those are the type of people that always want to be in power.
They're the worst type.
That's probably the scariest part of it.
I actually had a really groundbreaking conversation. So the way I'll describe Congress is, you ever have a job where 80% of it, 90% of it's just really eating shit, and then the 10% is really cool.
Yeah.
And it makes up for that 80, 90% that you're just
That's when I hosted Fear Factor.
Okay, so that aspect of I think really exists in politics if you actually care. Sure. And I had a meeting recently where I was with two other members of Congress that were helping me with the JFK investigation. And we actually met for the first time since 1990 with the ambassador to the Russian government. And I bring that up because at the time of the JFK assassination, the KGB had actually come forward with their own independent investigation, and they actually gave it at Kennedy's funeral to U.S. officials. We never got those documents, and it's my belief that the CIA actually destroyed that information and evidence because it would have confirmed what the KGB, and mind you, at the time, JFK was actually in talks with the president of Russia at that time, and his perspective is that he actually wanted to do a joint mission between the US government and the Russian government to the moon. And there are aspects and divisions within the intelligence community. You obviously saw the Cold War was happening. They wanted war in Cuba. They wanted war with Russia. So for them to be able to say that Kennedy, who was not a communist, but that he was a communist sympathizer, and how dare he talk to these dirty communists, I mean, that in itself would have given them any ammunition to turn a blind eye or at least not fully figure out who assassinated Kennedy. But I bring that up to say that, when you have these people in power, you can see a lot of it in regards to, there's a summit on the 15th actually with President Trump and Vladimir Putin. And I think the aspect of, anytime you have peace and trade, it's way better than war for everyone involved, for the people in Ukraine, for Russia, for the American people. And I think for the surrounding regions, I recently got back from meeting with government officials in Romania and Moldova. And it didn't matter, and I actually met an actual member of the Moldovan government who was a communist, an outward communist, and it didn't matter who I talked to, everyone wanted peace. And then when we had met with the European Parliament and
you
the
said
EU,
King
some
Nico?
of them wanted peace, but then the countries that
King Nico in here right now?
Excuse my language.
Hey, love is love. Namaste. I say salutations. Shalom. Peace, peace, peace. Somebody said they invited you over here, man. I would love to do a panel with you if we can set up if you're still in here. I don't know if you're still in here, but if you're still in here, man, if we could set up a panel just to, just to hold a discussion about different variations of things that's actually taking place inside this verse, right? Because there's a lot of things that's happening inside the minds of different people. And I think a lot of people are misconstruing what's happening in the minds of this selected multitude, whether it be indigos, whether it be, star seeds, light beings. You see different people holding panels where they're like, oh, they're going to tell you about your Atlantean blood or your Lumerian blood and so on and so forth. But, this was in a time that there was no type of bloodline to actually have. So you can't tell people about that. But you see people playing on people's mental with this. And like I said, I try to point it out to people, but people got upset. But I just want to explain to people about the 72 demons of the soul of man and how we need to conquer these different variations of ourselves, with inside of ourselves. That's why they exist outside of us, is because we haven't conquered what is inside of us. You know what I mean? I'm trying to reach out to different content creators that is actually on that same level of intellectual conversations, despite feelings and emotions. Like, I'm not saying catering to nobody's feelings and emotions, just holding a conversation about the greater things that are actually taking place within inside the Aquarius sky, and everything like that, and the effects that it's having on the collective people. People are fighting within inside themselves. I think the Muslims might call it a jihad, but everybody have a different level of understanding of what's taking place within inside of their self. They want this to take place outside of their self. A lot of people want Armageddon or whatever it is to take place outside of their self, but a lot of stuff is just taking place inside of their self, and the universe inside of them is getting destroyed as they know it. I don't know how to explain it, but it would be, great to sit down and converse with different variations of personas that actually want to build and grow in a level of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. My perspective might not be yours, but it's great to have a different variation of
Based
conversations.
economy, it always helps your economy. So if you have terrible policy perspectives, obviously you would advocate for something like
But
that.
I don't know if
But it
you
just
in
goes
here.
to
I
show
might have
the
missed
people
that
that are going
message.
through it, the people that are living it, that are directly impacted.
Yeah,
no
so
one
I might have
advocates
missed
for
that
them.
message.
And so, in even just having this
SOS, I might have
conversation,
missed it.
a lot of people, even administration ago, maybe 2 administrations ago, probably would not have had that conversation. But to be able to develop that dialogue, the end result of that meeting was the Russian government agreed to release their investigation onto JFK that the previous
I'll send a
Congressional
message
Task
to
Force
him.
in the 90s had tried to obtain
Yeah, if
from
you
the
can't
Russian
reach
government.
out,
They said
just
no.
if
They
you
agreed to
can't
release
reach
that,
out,
and
then
they'll be
you know what I mean.
publicly for the
Let
American
me
people
know,
pretty late on this fall.
If you're anywhere here in Ohio,
Yeah, for when
ugly
you
windows.
see, she keep on saying the American people this knowledge and stuff, this stuff that she's talking about is actually.
What do you think is in there, if you had to guess?
So when I was talking to the ambassador, he's actually
I want to get to the point
a
where she
history
says,
buff too, and so he had actually said that the Russian government, when Oswald was actually in
I
Russia,
appreciate
had
you
done
too.
a psychological profile because they thought,
I want to
this
get to the
guy
point where she says
American
what
intelligence
the
was destroying
aliens
this
look like,
office,
because they now
basically
trying to
nuts,
release
and apparently
information
he
saying
tried
that
to
the
go
aliens
crazy,
or
because he was out there and they were
these aliens or these people that are operating in multiple dimensions are black people down here on Earth. So they're saying that black people are operating in multiple dimensions that is possibly, and I'm gonna say allegedly, they don't know that they're operating in multiple dimensions, but they possibly are what is causing UFO sightings, so on and so forth. So different variations of abilities could be happening within inside their minds that is causing different people to see different sightings of things or so on and so forth. So this is where the whole mind is a terrible thing to waste, so on and so forth, because if you don't know that you operate in this, and you don't know that you operate in multiple dimensions, and you don't know the powers of such, then you don't know the empath, the true empath, how to heal, so on and so forth, right? So when you're an empath and you constantly got people around you that's speaking negative, right? It's amplifying the negative that is inside of you. So it's transmitting. If you don't know how to turn that negative to a positive, right, it could ultimately lead to your destruction. So they know that they can't destroy a light being or a star seed or indigo. They know that they can't destroy you or take you out, right? We're not in the dark ages anymore. We're in the time of knowing. So they know the karma's going to come back. They know the reset has took place. So now what they do is they try to get you to destroy yourself. They try to just put it in your head that destruction is coming, this is coming, that's coming, da-da-da-da-da. Put all your fears on you, whatever fear they can try to captivate, whatever fear they can push on you, you know, that's an energy vampire, right? Vampires are real, right? You got the meat eaters, which came with the new Council of Nicaea. If you go back in history, the flesh eaters and identity thieves, they came with the new Council of Nicaea. The new Council of Nicaea was formed when Constantine married what's the name? Akuzi, something like that. And this was of the Caucasian or Caucadian, whatever name it used. And this was the 1872, if I'm not mistaken. The first Council of Nicaea was in 325. King Nico, what's going on with you, man? Appreciate you for stopping through, man. I would love to host a panel with you. I don't know how busy your schedule is, but I don't know, when you'll be free, but I would love to, just hold a conversation about different variations of, knowledgeable things, But yeah, going back into the history, like there was the first Council of Nicaea, 325, and then there was a second Council of Nicaea. You don't really know about this, but even if you go back to, if you go back further than that, you go back to Julius Caesar, JC, right? And the Venus bloodline that he created with Cleopatra, that's where Cleopatra Needle come in, right? This is a false bloodline that they created in order to steal these different bloodlines, right? Different people have tried to expose, or how you ever say, disclose different variations of information. Mystery Babylon, America being the, secret place, so on and so forth. Why 70 or 80% of the Grand Canyon is not accessible, so on and so forth. Different things like that. So when you actually think about the mysteries, the secrets of this world, all of them coming out now, aliens being in our oceans. Oh, that's the story of Atlantis. Is mermaids real? Is saying that is the Little Mermaid real? Is the Trident real? Now we got to go back into mythologies. Now we got to go back into hieroglyphics. Now we got to go back into the Emerald Tablets. Now we got to go back into all of this stuff. So now that what was old is becoming new, or however the head is becoming the tail, however you want to look at this, we got to be knowledgeable in the things that was before Egyptian mythologies and all of this stuff. We got to be in the know of this stuff now. So a lot of people are stopping the teaching of the know of this stuff. Maybe because it's not coming from the right person that they want. Maybe because someone's not sitting in the seat of Congress speaking about it. You don't have that level of respect or understanding. So I'm grateful for this level of confirmation to even have this conversation take place. I'm grateful for this level of confirmation to say, hey, listen, keep going, so on and so forth. Because when you putting out knowledge of this magnitude out for free, people going to tear it down. People going, if you could write it in the book, charge $29.99, so on and so forth, people might buy it. But if you just put it out there and give it back to the people, they get scared. They like, oh, you're teaching that the stuff that this, but they talking about it. The Congress is talking about it. We're multi-dimensional beings sharing a human experience.
Observing him, and he couldn't shoot for that. So they're like, he didn't meet our psychological profile. Then he shows up to the Russian embassy in Mexico City with a gun, and they're like, what the hell is it, like crazy guy showing up? What's going on? And then we find out simultaneously as this is all happening that the CIA, kudos to Director Ratcliffe, had actually released something called the Joanides file. And George Joanides was actually, he's basically our version of James Bond, but more corrupt. And he was basically observing Oswald. He had lied to Congress. This was all in his file. He was then the CIA liaison to Congress during the investigations, stonewalled their investigations, was later awarded something from the CIA. So we have the CIA admitting that they lied to Congress, covered up the assassination attempt, or covered up the investigations. We had admissions from the Warren Commission, people that had been subject to the Warren Commission's investigation, saying that the Warren Commission engaged in witness intimidation. They omitted evidence. The single bullet theory never exists. The CIA admits that Lee Harvey Oswald was not a lone gunman. People ask, well, does this mean that you'll ever get the name of who killed him? No, because I don't think the CIA was like, kill JFK on this day. And there was evidence of multiple shooters for sure.
Well, there had to be multiple shooters. There's injuries, like one of them was the front of his neck.
We had testimony to that.
Yeah.
And actually, what's interesting is when we first launched the task force, we had left-leaning news outlets that were trying to write hit pieces saying that I was basically...
All right, we gotta skip that.
Off. You never dropped.
We gotta skip that. That JFK conversation is, that...
and put into the report, right? So, like, if you're...
Let me finish.
Okay.
My point is, that wasn't a far shot. It was like, what was it, 140 yards from the book depository to with a scope?
Yeah,
and
he should have been able to
rifle
take
with
the
a rest. No, not past them. There was a lot of chaos. You hear gunshot.
I'm not trying to...
Are you considering getting
I don't want to keep on hearing that, because they're going to keep on saying, pew-pew this, pew-pew that, so I gotta skip that part.
So for someone like me, people are like, oh, initially, you're going to ruin your political career talking about this. This is crazy. Why would you even want to do that? And then, they're seeing all these big wins coming out in regard to transparency. And I will say, had it not been for the secretaries that have been appointed by this administration, this wouldn't have happened, because under President Biden, he actually also tried to declassify things pertaining to JFK, and the National Archives never released it. And so in addition to...
That's not a good sign. None of that stuff's a good sign. Like, if you want trust from the American people, you release information. If you want us to distrust you, you hide everything. And you're hiding everything on one of the most important events in human history.
They were up until recently. And we're still documents that the JFK community, because mind you, I'm actually working with, his name's Jefferson Morley. He is not a Republican, he's a Bernie Sanders Democrat. But on this issue, we're working great together. And he's actually been helping me, and he's like, look, I've been waiting for this stuff for like 30 years.
Yeah, this is a hugely bipartisan issue.
It's super bipartisan.
This is something we can all get together. That and UFOs. It's the one thing Democrats and Republicans both completely agree on. Like, tell us what's up. Tell us what's up. Who killed them, and are they real? Those are two giant questions that we all have.
I think they're real. The other part is still outstanding, but hopefully when the documents are released from the Russian government later on this fall, that might be able to provide a full picture. Granted, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt, because it's still, it was written by the KGB. But at the end of the day, we have a good mosaic that's been put together with at least the documents that have been released with this administration. And for any outstanding documents, I actually have a team assigned to the CIA that is actually helping me chase down these documents. And I've already had some interesting experiences, like not creepy, but for example,
we gotta wait for the KGB to release it. Damn.
And Ratcliffe has been super helpful.
Trump released it before the KGB released it.
Allegedly, there had been a
document.
No.
Let the KGB release it.
That was a report from the Inspector General that had implicated the CIA allegedly in the assassination of JFK. So I'm following up on this lead and trying to find this report. And the archives is like, we don't have any documentation of this. The CIA says they don't have any documentation. And they've been good with us so far. So I go to the archives because they're like, we found this weird bag though, and it's in the skiff, and it's been here for 5 years, and it was left by our former attorney for the archives, and so we didn't know what's in it. And I was like, well, go open it. They're like, well, we don't have the key, and it's in a vault. And I said, well, I'm coming over. So I drive over, literally, I like put myself in the car. I get in the car, and I go over to the National Archives. We go into the skiff, I pull out this bag, and I'm like, does anyone have scissors? And we like cut open this little folder, and there was a CD-ROM in it, and this has again been declassified now, so I can talk about it, but there was this CD-ROM of a ton of wires from the State Department. Some of the wires were pertaining to the Kennedy family, and it was actually a WikiLeaks document. And so I think the reason why it was kept at the archives is because you're not actually supposed to have these documents on government computers. WikiLeaks obviously don't have them with that. But here I was like cutting it out of a bag at the National Archives.
That makes sense that you would have the most top secret documents burned on CD-ROMs. That way no one could ever get access to it by hacking into your computer.
To this day, I don't know even who left the CD-ROM. I don't know. And there's some other stuff in that I don't need to get into. But
why don't you need to get into it?
Because I don't want to get in trouble. But the stuff that was on there was interesting, and I think I saw recently Tulsi had actually talked about some of the State Department wires that had been found. And I think these are the same ones that had talked about the assassination of RFK. There were wires going up from the State Department prior to his assassination, which is interesting. So our next investigation, so we've done multiple hearings.
What do you mean by that? Like, how did they specifically discuss it?
Well, I haven't seen the actual wires themselves yet, but what that would imply is that the State Department knew about the assassination before it took place.
Oh, jeez.
So, and that was something she talked about.
Did you get into the MK Ultra stuff at all with Jolly West and?
So I look at that on my free time, but that's not the purview of the task force. But there's stuff that you can, again, CIA.gov/reading room, super creepy. I did find a document on the archives website that actually ties the initial phases of the MK Ultra program to Operation Paperclip.
Oh boy.
Interesting. And
that makes sense, right?
And it's there, and I'm reading this to my husband.
Because for sure the Nazis were experimenting on drugs with people.
They're doing a lot of bad stuff.
Oh, they were doing a lot of horrible stuff, but for sure they were experimenting on their soldiers and on the prisoners, and they were experimenting on all kinds of people.
Creepy stuff.
Yeah, and if we took some of that and applied it, the Jack Ruby connection to it is that Jolly West went to visit Jack Ruby after he shot Lee Harvey Oswald, and Jack Ruby was like pretty rational before then, and then after Jolly West leaves, he's like freaking out, seeing things that aren't there. I think he said something about Jews he could see Jews burning alive,
like a psychosis state,
full on, lost it. Most likely got dosed the fuck with acid. Most likely Jolly West just hit him with a fucking giant,
that's a terrible way to go,
shot glass of acid. It doesn't, like, he went so far off the deep end. Then he died later. I think he died a few years later of cancer, but I think he completely lost his mind after Jolly West visited him. And Jolly West he was involved in the Manson family thing. He was involved with Operation Midnight Climax, where they had brothels. The CIA was running brothels, and they would get these Johns to come in with the prostitutes, and the prostitutes would give them acid, and they didn't know it. And so they were sitting there, and there was two-way mirrors, and they were filming them while these guys were, well, for blackmail, for observation. They knew these people were never going to say, hey, you did that to me. You know, look what the government did. It dosed me up with acid. Because they're not going to admit they went to a brothel.
Well,
so you have like the perfect group of people to victimize and just try stuff on.
Well, and they got in trouble for it too. Like the CIA had to do payouts; they were getting sued for it. And then when all this did flush out, I mean, you know, it's always.
The Freedom of Information Act was the only one, and then they found a bunch of documents. They found documents that were, I forget, Tom O'Neill, who wrote the book Chaos, goes into great detail about this.
Well, it's interesting.
It's all about the Manson family and MK Ultra. It's a fantastic book.
Well, even just this conversation right now, there's such a stigma that exists around it because it's such a spooky topic.
Yeah.
And so it's
and
like
you don't want to look stupid.
You don't want to look stupid. And so look, anyone watching this can go look at this information. Go to CIA.gov/reading room, and no, it's not going to like be a phishing website that's going to steal your information. But like you can find.
Oh, for sure it is.
The CIA is like, where are we accessing?
For sure.
But you know, it's always been one of those things, and that, you know, if people ask me, I'm just very transparent about it. And I will say something that started out with a stigma of being, you know, this conspiracy theory investigation, wasting taxpayer dollars, has been arguably one of the coolest task force in Congress, I think. And we have a lot of good people that are.
Where is they at?
The tide is turning on that.
Where is they at? Where is the real conspiracy theorist task force? Where is they at? I wanna know those people.
Crazy,
not people that's using conspiracy theories for gossip.
There's a time-honored tactic.
Real conspiracy theories.
Like if I was an intelligence community, and I'm not accusing anybody of doing this, but if I was an intelligence community and I had some truth that was very inconvenient to a narrative, and I wanted to label that truth as being a preposterous conspiracy theory, I'd add a bunch of kooky shit to it.
Or have disinformation campaigns.
Or dole it out to the
disinformation campaign.
Dole it out to the craziest people. You know, this guy's got a drinking problem. He's got a conspiracy theory website.
Or take a little and spin it.
Listen to what Joe Rogan just said. He said, if I was the government, I will get this out to the most kookiest people on the internet, right? The 609, the 607 unks, right? The big homie CCs, right? Get them out to the people. Got drinking problems, pill problems, drug problems. Listen to what they saying. Get them out there to the Jaguar Rights. Let Jaguar Wright talk about it, right? Imposter spirits, right? Don't let the people that got the same mind that actually can articulate this stuff properly talk about it. They sound too much like right? Let the crazies get this information. Listen to what they saying. You wondering why all these people that's coming up on social media are addicts at this, addicts at that, doing this, doing that, and they're not distributing the knowledge properly. They telling you, oh, join my Patreon, because they're being informed on this stuff. They don't really know this stuff themselves. They don't hold this knowledge themselves. That's why they can't hold a conversation with somebody that actually knows this stuff, right? Because I don't need to say, I gotta go study it. I gotta go look for it. I gotta go get it, right? Anywhere I go, this knowledge is with me, right? So when I talk about this stuff, it's right there, right? When they talk about it, they gotta say, I gotta go I gotta go look at it, I gotta go study this, I gotta go read again, I ain't looking at it right now, I gotta go look, because they're being informed about this stuff. 607, I gotta act crazy, but then when I act crazy, I gotta drop the jewel and so on and so forth. Yeah, they telling you to do this stuff. They putting you out there as a false image. They putting you out there as a false light. They putting you out there as a false master, a false, you know what I mean? All these people. That's why he's sitting down with the whack 100s, and that's why you see all these false lights out there. They never really gonna give a real light a chance. They gonna tear down all the real lights, but they gonna have all these imposters that steals your image, steals your likeness, steals your intellectual properties, and then they portray to be you. While the whole time they this is what happens.
Yeah.
Get it to him and tell him you're helping him out. You're gonna give him some get him to spread a bunch of kooky stuff so that when that stuff gets disproven, the other thing's attached to it, so the other thing looks stupid too. And that's what I would do.
Yeah, we've had our fill. Like, the one thing I wanted to do when I first got the task force is open up a skiff to any person who held a clearance to come brief us on what they knew about UAPs. And I can tell you that we've now had
What was
the
the
skiff.
first conversation like? When the door shuts and you're like, oh boy, I'm
Well,
gonna get the goods.
the problem is I've reached out to some of the biggest names in UFO lore. Okay.
You say false messenger, they illuminate us true. Exactly. They sit there and try to, learn you, and then try to, take or steal variations of intellectual properties or, spiritual growth, developments. They steal it and then try to make it seem. I was wondering, like, somebody was sitting there saying, like, yeah, I manifest this stuff and so on and so forth. They couldn't even sell it to their audience properly. They had to go back into the negative shit that they used to because they couldn't sell it to their audience. They try to put, card readers that's putting heads in jars around them and shit like that, but they couldn't really sell it. It wasn't really selling.
And they all got skiff flu, and we call it skiff flu, meaning like the day that the skiff was open, that we reserved it, we're like, we're here, like, come on, come brief us. They get sick, or
And
the
they didn't
dog
recover
dies.
and come back?
They didn't recover, and then they just don't talk to us anymore. So
They ghost you?
They ghost us. Yeah, so I'm like, well, if you're not gonna tell me to skip, then you're full of crap.
Or you're scared for your life because you're just a scientist who doesn't, maybe they got threatened. Maybe someone let them know that maybe someone hung something on their door in the middle of the night.
But if people say they're gonna go tell us in a skiff, and then they don't show up, it's a problem, right?
Well,
So
I
they've already gone
understand,
public.
but maybe those people don't feel like the government's going to protect them.
That is one of the biggest things that we've had people bring up, is that you're a whistleblower, but whistleblower protections only go so far, and you can't do anything for my physical safety, and some of them do allege that there's these actual physical concerns. We actually had someone that we wanted to bring in to testify, because our next hearing on UAP is going to be, I believe it's next month, and the individual that was actually told to us by
Now, this
Dave
was
Rush is
22 hours
actually
ago,
a
so this was
combat controller,
yesterday.
and so my husband, Air Force Special Operator, Combat Control, but so we knew the guy via some friends, so we knew that the guy wasn't nuts or crazy, and we reached out to him, and he did not want to come in. He wanted nothing to do with it, was like, I'm not touching this. And so, that stuff like that happens.
Well, also, you put those folks on TV, right?
We don't have to. We can do private, but if we testify.
If it comes time where they have to testify,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of time in between people finding out that this guy came and told you guys what's up to testify.
Don't freak out our witnesses, Jeff.
But that's the problem. This is why
No one's gonna
what I was
testify now.
talking about is what's being advocated in the documentary that to me makes perfect sense is mass amnesty. Now here's the bad part. For sure, you're dealing with enormous sums of money, and I'm sure people got really rich off of that, and I'm sure it's super illegal if it's real.
What, the back engineering potential?
Yeah, I mean, and also the competitive advantage you would give company A if this company gets access to a down craft that can traverse space and time, that can move through the universe instantaneously, that utilizes an unknown element, that has some unknown process of defying gravity. It's utilizing no interior mechanisms of control. Everything is done with the mind of the pilot. If this is the truth, if this is what they're saying, and these are the kind of things they find, that getting to a contractor would be a massive advantage over the other contractor that also should be on equal standing.
So nobody heard what he said. If this UFO, because they say every time they find a UFO, it's empty. It's empty, right? They can't figure out how it works, so on and so forth. So if this UFO is being used with just the mind of the controller, right? What if there's thousands of UFOs out there, but due to the fact that the minds that's attached to them UFOs is not in recognition with that consciousness, right? They don't know the frequency that UFO is on. So the multidimensional beings that's down here, because they don't know the frequency of their UFO or UOP, whatever they keep on changing it to, right? You can't operate your shit. Does it make sense? This is why they block off certain parts of your brain. This is why your DNA only goes to 3 to 4 strands, and you're only using 23 chromosomes out of those 3 to 4 strands, as opposed to using 144 chromosomes of the 12 strands of your DNA. It's maybe because if you use all 12 strands of your DNA or somewhere in there, you operate different variations of things that are not in this dimension, but you can pull them to this dimension because of your mental capabilities. Let's think on that for a second. Could be possible. This is probably why they keep a level of limitation on knowledge. Governmental. One's in the chat if you understand.
With the government, right? They both make jets, they both make whatever it is. So it's like, what do? Do you divvy up your spaceships in between these folks? Like, are they the only ones who get to know it? And then how do private contractors, how are they the gatekeepers of the most important information in the world, if it's true?
Well, and that brings us to what happened at Eglin Air Force Base. So in a nutshell, we had been told Representative Gates had come forward and said that he had two or three pilots that had contacted him saying that the Air Force was covering up information regarding to UAP activity in the handle, and he wanted us to go with him to investigate. So we show up at Eglin Air Force Base. We're met by the base commander. Previous to us even showing up on this congressional delegation to investigate, the Pentagon had tried to cancel the meeting. And you can't, so this was under the last administration, so you can't just cancel a meeting and say you can't come to the base. That doesn't work. So Gates actually was on House Armed Services at the time that oversees the U.S. military. And so Gates got the chairman involved, calls back onto the Pentagon, gets this meeting on the books, and we told them specifically we want to see information on UAPs, we want to see the evidence, and we want to have the pilots that saw these aircraft, whatever they are, or these spacecraft, we want to have briefings from them. In a nutshell, we get to Eglin Air Force Base. They keep BSing us about the Chinese spy balloon. That's not what we were there to see. And ultimately, we were in the skiff. We got into a verbal disagreement with the base commander at the time, who was denying us access to the pilots and to the information, and said that we didn't have authorization In the skiff, there was many members of the intelligence community. We then go back upstairs to the conference room and proceed to, again, basically have it out with this commander. And Representative Burchett said, you know, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You choose, sir.
Like a movie. Ooh.
Kind of, but it was at the time
I like it when people use a movie.
Yeah, it's easy way or the hard way. And if it's the hard way, you're going to have, you know, Representative Gates and Luna in D.C. questioning you. So I suggest you do the easy way. So he actually, in the middle of the meeting, you know, we were kind of holding his feet to the fire on it. He like kind of got nervous as we were talking to him, and I kid you not, he goes, you know, they're gonna like that I'm not gonna let you. So he like kind of was like thinking out loud, but didn't realize that he was basically saying it. And then in the middle of our meeting, he gets up and leaves the room. Like, I have to go to the restroom or something. And then maybe like 5 minutes later, this tech sergeant comes in and says, oh, the base commander's been authorized to go on leave to Georgia. He won't be coming back. And I'm sitting there looking at Gates and Burchett. I'm like, he just left, like in the middle of a congressional delegation? Like, that's never happened.
So he said out loud, they would be happy that I'm not telling you?
Yeah, like verbally articulated it. Gates was there. My husband was there. Burchett was there.
It's just like, if that guy's, he's in a powerless situation, right? If he does give you access,
he's gonna get in trouble.
He might be really in trouble. You know, like,
but here's the problem. He can't, even if it was someone at the the Secretary of Defense.
That's crazy.
Right? At the time, this got pretty high level.
I'm not saying it's not illegal.
Yeah. He still, at the end of the day, you're in the military. How our government functions is the military does not decide what the civilian sector and what representatives can and cannot see. It's not supposed to function like that. So he got up and left. Like, I've never seen this happen. I was in the military. I've never seen, like, in the middle of a congressional delegation. These are big deals. You just get up and go and leave to Georgia and you just don't come back. Like, in the middle of the meeting, it never happened.
What state were you in at the time?
We were in Florida.
Wow,
he just, like,
hilarious.
get up and, like, drove to Georgia. Like, what the hell are you doing in Georgia in the middle of a congressional delegation?
I'm going fishing.
Yeah. And then his second in command comes in, and they managed to get one pilot to come down and brief us. And what I will tell you is, I will say it, Representative Gates has gone on record, he actually did as soon as he left office, that we've seen stuff that I don't believe was created by mankind.
So, you can't tell us what you saw, but...
I'm gonna let you infer.
See, this is the problem that I have with all this stuff.
I should be able to tell you without losing my clearance.
Well, not just that. That people
Used
that
to be in
have
North
that
Carolina already.
that information to the general
I'm trying to
public.
tell
And
y'all better
stop
start
treating us
unifying.
like you're smarter than us, and that you can.
Y'all better
you can't.
unify. I'm
That's
trying to
silly.
tell you.
Which is why we have to declassify, which is
You know
why...
the Hal Puthoff stuff?
No.
Also, okay, Hal Puthoff during the Bush administration was assigned, he was one of many scientists.
Disclosure.
This is also in
The knowledge is out there.
He was one of
I
many
promise
scientists
you it
that was
is.
assigned to put a numerical value to pros and cons of UFO disclosure. So they said to him, we have a crashed UFO that we have been back engineering, and we want to release information to society to let people know that UFOs are real, and that there is something else out there that's not us, that's much more intelligent than we are. So they have this list of pros and cons: banking, religion, societal structure, you know, everything on one side. And then the pros, like, you know, whatever the positive aspects of it would be. And every single scientist said that the cons outweighed the pros. And he said, I would have loved to have had disclosure, but this was just what they asked me to do. They asked me to compile numbers.
Tap the screen,
and to
share
do
the
it in a way
live,
that's
tap the
super
screen,
objective.
share the
And he said,
live.
look, if I'm doing my job, this is where I think it would completely wreck our government. Completely wreck any idea that the people that are in charge of us have any position of authority. When there's something that can go 100 million times faster than we think is physically possible through the universe, appear out of nowhere, stop all of our nuclear programs, shut down bases, do weird shit.
But don't you think that that's where kind of it's been interesting, because society has moved away from this aspect of like having a spiritual grounding and even believing, and like, you know, most people today, I think when you talk about like praying, even that whole concept is kind of just like, oh, you know, they're just, and I feel like that thing's kind of poo-pooed. But if you have like a grounding in that, and going back to what I was saying earlier, I think that that's not like I don't think that society would do that. Granted, I'm not a scientist, I'm not running numbers, but just based on how we've kind of been evolving with access to information and kind of the questions, the discussions that have been happening, not just here, but I think internationally, I just think a lot's changing. Now, to say that we were, and I've heard some wild theories, like people think that, humanity was seeded by UFOs, and that's I don't agree with that theory. I'm going to address it because
it's a fun one.
It's an interesting theory.
If you found out it was true, would you tell everybody?
I mean, I'd be transparent about it, but I just don't personally believe it.
But would you believe it if you found out that was the information that the government had?
Well, I put it out there because that's what I'm
right, but what would that do for your belief system? That
would suck.
Well, would it suck really? But maybe that's what's confusing about the Bible. Maybe what's confusing is that it was an oral tradition for hundreds, if not 1,000 years before it was ever written down, right?
Well, I think that it depends on what book you're talking about, right? So,
but I mean, the Old Testament, if you go back to the oldest works of the Bible, weren't most of those stories handed down generation after generation and then eventually written down?
Written into text. Well, some of them are written by prophets, and then, but I mean, Enoch is apparently supposed
I
to
mean,
predate
the New Testament was written 300 years after
the nuttiest one is Ezekiel.
Christ.
I'm telling you, Enoch is even crazy.
Enoch is crazier than Ezekiel.
Did you find anything about whether or not Enoch is controversial?
You can look up the 4th century.
Is it?
It was discluded as, well, I guess, since the 5th century, it wasn't in canon.
Sorry, 5th century.
And why did it get discluded?
It says the Jewish scribes or the priests didn't believe, the rabbis didn't believe it was canon.
Huh.
So it's regarded as scripture.
But what's interesting is that even if that's the case, though, you have the Ethiopian Orthodox Church that actually there's Ethiopian Jews, and that's considered the most pure form of the Bible. So you actually have a division of the Ethiopian Jewish class that actually recognized Enoch.
How weird is it that some rabbis 500 years ago made a call?
But that's what I'm saying, is you can't though discredit it, because
that's kind of weird.
But you can't discredit it because, again, when you have people removing books, I think, look, and I'm not telling people what to believe. I'm just saying you should take a look at it.
Oh, here it is. The main reason for the Jewish rejection of the book is that it's inconsistent with the teachings of the Torah. From the standpoint of rabbinic, how do you say that? Rabbinic Judaism. Sorry. The book is considered to be heretical. Another reason for the exclusion of the text might be the textual nature of several early sections of the book that make use of material from the Torah. For example, Enoch is a midrash of Deuteronomy 33. The context, particularly detailed descriptions of fallen angels, would also be reason for rejection from the Hebrew canon at this period, as is illustrated by the comments of Trypho the Jew when debating Justin Martyr on this subject. The utterances of God are holy, but your expositions are mere contrivances, as is plain from what has been explained by you, nay, even blasphemous, for you assert that angels sinned and revolted from God.
So it
seems like some people made a decision that something shouldn't be in there.
Why he didn't read the second part?
It's a disagreement in religion and perspective. But
why he didn't read the second part?
And so it's interesting because then you have, the evolution of what the King James Bible is. We all know that story. He wanted to get remarried. They rewrote it. But you even have the Catholic Bible that has, it's what happened.
Right.
You have the Catholic Bible that had books that were taken out. And then we have the King James.
So books of the Apocryphy.
Read the King James. You're not getting, you don't have access to God. That's not what I'm saying.
Bella and the Beast, all the books of the Apocryphy was taken out.
There's always a problem when people get involved.
77 books, 66 books.
That this could be real. And this
80 books, 88 books.
The problem is, all these years later, you're dealing with the repercussions of that. Imagine a world in which if Enoch was left in the Bible, and people were like, wait, what happened?
Is caregiving taking away time, money, and...
Imagine a world where Enoch was left in the Bible.
Of the Book of Enoch.
Well, it's okay. So if you read it, it talks about the fall of angels, thus creating really the precursor of civilization that led to the first flood. I think that when you even go into potentially the technology that was given to mankind by these angels, it talks about the hidden beliefs and theories in astronomy, etc., metalworkings, all of it. But it really does explain, you were talking about earlier how you have a lot of these religions around the world that kind of say the same thing. this is kind of the OG text that leads to those stories that we're hearing from many religions around the world. To talk about angels mixing with mankind and then seeding a super essentially race of humans that essentially were responsible for basically damning mankind to the flood. I mean, you hear about stuff in Greek and Roman mythology, people who had these super crazy powers, and you talk about it out loud and it sounds crazy, but that's what the book says. And then the fact that it was taken out and then it's poo-pooed, yet you have one of the oldest religions in the world via the Ethiopians that actually still have it. You
Still
have, the Catholic Church
have
has
it.
books that
Look.
are missing out of the...
Look, because it's the monarch of this, to take out this fight, to take out this battle that took place, to take it out, right? That's why they still got it in the oldest religion. Now, mind you, Ethiopia has the Ark of the Covenant, or, allegedly the Ark of the Covenant is in Ethiopia. And they still have the Book of Enoch in their book, right? But according to what they say, they took it out, right? And the Book of Enoch tell you about this big fight, because when the angels came back and they realized that man, listen, the Book of Enoch, all right, watch.
The King James Version. I'm just saying that...
That's why they trying to give us the information now.
Decide for yourself. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Don't listen to what you're saying. But truly give it a chance and see what you have to say. And then, you're going back to this whole concept of if you have this information pertaining to UAPs, whatever they might be, the origins. I mean, if you have an understanding of what Enoch was talking about, kind of makes sense.
Well, I go back to my thoughts on all this stuff. It's like, no, very few people could even read back then. Very few people could write, right? So you're not going to write. You're probably going to try to capture a truth. You're probably not writing necessarily to deceive people and make up a story. So the question is, with all this stuff, is what was the original truth that they were trying to write down, and how much of it is getting distorted by translations from ancient Hebrew to Latin to Greek?
Aramaic.
Yeah,
Aramaic,
how much
Aramaic.
of it? And is it possible to even understand what they're saying without understanding the language? And my friend Rick Strassman, he's a very fascinating guy, but brilliant guy. One of the things he did is he taught himself ancient Hebrew so he could read the Bible in ancient Hebrew. It took him 16 years.
16 years.
Wow.
But he did it because, I want to know it in that language.
Direct, and that's
Yeah.
smart, because there's always an aspect of translation where you lose
Sure.
certain implications.
If you're playing the telephone game, you want to be second. You don't want to be 15th.
Exactly.
Right? And whoever was writing it down the earliest, that's probably, you're closer to their depictions of what that truth is than after King James starts fucking around with it. And all
Put a new wife, gotta remove
all these
certain
new
stuff.
people start getting involved. But boy, when you...
That's where I keep on telling people, when you realize the origin of this was never talking about what they made it into, then you find the essence of the story, right? So when you get out of this linear thinking of what they wrote the book to be about, then you get the true essence of what they were saying the book was about, the crucifixion. To be crucified is not to unalive. And when you find out that they said Calvary was actually a part of the brain, the Hebrew book says Calvary was a part of the brain. To be crucified means to multiply, right? So when crucified on Calvary, it means he multiplied tenfold on Calvary, right? When it's talking about the pioneer, Jacob and the pioneer, him naming the place the pioneer, it's the place in the body, the brain, right? So when the Hebrew was writing this, they was writing a story of the vessel of mankind, how the seed moves through the body, how the seed goes from the testicles up the spinal cord, putting together the 12 chakra systems of the body, because the seed is the representation of Christ, Moses, etc., right? And that seed moves up the vessel of mankind, inside the body. That's why that in the Bible it says Christ first appeared at what age? 13, right? Every man knows that you start getting secretion in your sac at roughly around 12 and 13, right? And this secretion builds up in the spinal cord, up your spinal cord, so on and so forth, right? So the book was telling you about this journey inside the body of man, right? And then when he say, Father, why have thou forsaken me? This is when, fornication was created, if you want to say. When the seed exit from his father into his mother, the wilderness, that's why the two people that seen him in the cave is Mary and Mary, right? Women, right? So the seed went from the father to the mother. This is considered the first unaliving process, right? In the book of Revelations, it says, he who rises above the carnal nature will not experience a second unaliving, because the second unaliving is your physical unaliving. The first unaliving was when you left your father's sack and entered into your mother's womb or cave, however you want to look at it. And if you ask a gynecologist will tell you that a man's seed stays within inside a woman for up to 3 days, right? The 3 days that Christ was. Come on. Let's put these stories together now. Let's stop acting like we're outside of understanding this stuff now. I think we have more level of understanding in this world, and we should be able to understand this stuff now. Right? So let's act like we can put this story together in the proper level of understanding and come to a level of understanding that overstands what this world done told us.
Go to the really old stuff. The really old stuff is very strange.
The Orthodox, I'm telling you, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, I actually had a staffer that went to Ethiopia. She was on a church trip, and she actually brought me back a copy, and she's like, you can translate it via Google Translation, so kudos to modern day technology. So I have it in my office, and actually when I did my swearing in, I actually did my swearing in on the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible.
Wow.
That's cool. It's direct translation.
That's kind of crazy. It's I would wonder what the impact.
I want to be a part of that group. I want to swear in on the Ethiopian Bible. I gotta get a copy of the Ethiopian Bible.
Like,
I gotta order that. I mean, I had the Dead Sea Scrolls, all the books taken out. I read the Book of Enoch, all of that stuff.
This government is too secretive with all this information. You're holding back the understanding.
I mean, that's where this comes from.
Forms, that they are not the apex of this planet. Nor are they anywhere close to the peak of the intelligence that's available out there in the universe. Just let me show you real quick.
That's where all that comes from.
And then what does everybody do now? Like,
the knowledge of some of the stuff.
I think that brings us.
Once you dig past stuff.
Well, I think that brings us back to square one. So, by the way, I'm by no means saying that aliens are God. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But I think that brings us back to the fundamental question on: do you believe that God exists? Because if you do, then you realize that our freedom, the freedom of choice, is not a man-given right, but a God-given right. And I think that goes back to the fundamental principles of like what we believe in true representation. So if you
Human
believe
rights,
that God is real, God is powerful.
If you believe God is real, then it's your God-given right to know this knowledge, to get this.
To make your life decisions. That's ultimately what freedom of choice is.
But I think even the Catholic Church has acknowledged the idea that if there is intelligent life somewhere else, it doesn't mean that God didn't create it.
Well, that's true. It's
Maybe God just didn't tell you about the neighbors.
Well, it does say in Enoch, and then also too, I think in Genesis, that the stars cried out. And so if you're looking, well, a star, if it's not, what do they mean by stars crying out? And then Enoch actually alludes to stars in certain capacities being potentially angels. Now, I'm not saying like, and this is kind of interesting because, I have this aspect of my task force, what we've been investigating, but then I have, my personal beliefs and, my religious beliefs. And what I'm telling you is that in my position officially, I've seen men pervert information to get what they want. So it's not unlikely that an entire, very secret and very truthful text was omitted in an effort to control population and to insert yourself between an individual's relationship between them directly and God. And I think that,
Well, especially if it doesn't.
Whoa, what they say? To interfere with people's direct connection with God. So they hid you from the knowledge of consciousness, so that way you wouldn't have a direct connection with Source. People don't think that they put us in secret operation. People don't think that, okay, this is a government official disclosing certain variations of stuff. You better realize you're a multi-dimensional being sharing a human experience. or things are going to keep on happening in your physical life. You're going to keep on fighting yourself. You're going to keep on creating different narratives for yourself. Every day you're going to seem like you woke up in a different dimension. Something's moved. Something's out the way. I remember putting this here. Why is it over here? I did that. What the fuck? What's going on? You're going to think fairies is involved in your life. You're going to think somebody playing a game. Like you go, and then the cyber stalkers come. Oh, once the cyber stalkers get a hold of your ass, it's over with. Once the cyber stalkers get a hold of your ass. Now they gonna play all types of psychological games with your ass if you going through any type of dream state awakening, if your sleeping habits is changing, if your eating habits is changing, you better get around the right people who going through that same thing. Because if you get around the wrong people and they pretending to be like they do that, you know, but you gonna know them through their vibration. You gonna recognize them through their vibration, right? You ain't gonna recognize them through their people. They don't wear the same face as you. It's don't look at like, oh, my people, they black people. No. They stopped that a long time ago. They mixed up everything a long time ago for this, right? This is why they said it's their God-given right to procreate, right? They mixed this shit up a long time ago. They fucked you over. This is the fragments of all of this, right? We got so many different fragments within inside of us, right? So don't sit there and think your people wear the same color face as you or none of that shit. Don't think that. Your people vibrate. You get what I'm saying? The people that you're looking for, it's a vibrational frequency. Some of them will be drawn to you. You will be drawn to some of them. But it's not what you think. Don't think they share the same face. Don't think they share the same color. Don't think they in your family. Don't think they hold titles. Strip all of that shit away and find the vibrational frequency that you are vibrating to. Your soul. Your soul's purpose is to do everything to be at peace with one another down here. Right? So you have to find the frequency that matches your frequency. Don't try to argue somebody else's frequency. Don't try to force somebody else's frequency to match your frequency. Don't try to, people learn you so they can pretend to be on the frequency that you on so they can pull you down. So you just got to let them be them and find the frequency that match your frequency. Stop giving people secrets of your heart. Stop telling people what you look for in somebody, because then they're going to pretend to be what you looking for. You tell somebody you want somebody that's got a sense of humor, they're going to become a damn comedian. You tell somebody you want somebody that's, down to earth, they're going to act like they dropping truth bombs on you. You tell somebody that you want a philosophical person, they're going to act like they enlightened. Like, you got to stop giving up secrets of your heart. You wondering why you keep running into the wrong people, because you're not letting them be them. You telling their representative what you looking for, and then they pretending to be what it is that you looking for until it's too late, and now you done stuck yourself in some shit that you shouldn't be in. Whole foot messy. Right? So you got to be careful out here. You got to find the people that vibrate the same vibration of you. If peace be still, then you going to find the people that know how to have peace within inside themselves. They not looking for somebody to bring them love. They not looking for somebody to bring them happiness. They not looking for somebody. They are content and happy with the way, listen, if it's mine, it's mine. If it's not, let it be. Some people are mad that you have that ability. I can't believe you just let me go that easy. I can't believe you walk away so fast. I can't believe you. Hold on. Listen. I'm here for a real time, not a long time. I never had a real time. Long time. I'm way up. I feel blessed. Nah. I'm joking. But I'm just saying, you got to realize that, people come into your life to fix stuff. Sometimes when they fix the things that they are made to fix, you got to be okay with the exit. You got to be okay with, if people coming into your life, if people doing things in your life, you do, and you got to be okay with it. A lot of people allow people to come into their life, and then in order to exit their life, they got to have a big fallout with you. They got to have a big No, when you become an adult, you understand, you know? Hey, listen, there was good times, there was bad times, but there was times. Life be lifing. So you gotta let love be love, let darkness be darkness. You know what I'm saying? You know, people coming with fuckery, let them have their fuckery. You know what I mean? It's okay. It's okay that people sit in fuckery.
Agree with your interpretation.
Whatever.
of God. And this is
Yeah.
what the issue with these rabbis, right?
Well, I mean, if you're having people determine any information,
Right.
yes, you should not be able to do that.
Just the same thing as the UFO stuff.
The
It should
UFO
be
stuff?
no one should be the gatekeeper of information.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and hence the transparency on the information.
Especially something that's it should be for all of us. This is nuts.
I think we're probably going to be responsible for like the Book of Enoch sales probably increase on it.
Y'all make sure y'all go watch, you know, this
I need to
episode
read
of
it
Joe
now.
Rogan
Yes,
Experiment. Go
Well,
watch it.
I wish I could.
Congresswoman
I'm
is
sure
up
there's
there.
some
Make sure y'all go
interpretations
check
and
it
principles
out.
that I could sludge through.
Hella,
But the
hella.
thing about it is, like, I'd really love to be able to read it in Aramaic. I really wish I could read Aramaic. I just don't have the fucking time to do that.
You can
But if I
listen.
did,
Go on.
You can
You
look.
should see if there's like an Audible. So
I'm
like,
sure there is. But what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, I really like the Strassman idea of learning ancient Hebrew to be able to read the source material. That's where it gets really.
That's what I
interesting.
did. I
Like,
studied
what these
Hebrew
people
to try to
write
read
about.
that shit. That shit
And
is
if
hard as
these people
hell,
like
bro. I
Graham
got
Hancock
a little
and
bit
Randall
of it.
Paulson are correct, and these
Some of
folks
the
that
words
believe in
that they
younger dryas
misconstrued.
impact theory. You know, the Bible was
What
written
Sodom and
a couple
Gomorrah really
thousand years
was.
ago. These people that are talking about the younger dryas impact theory are talking about a cataclysmic event that wiped out advanced civilization 11,800 years ago.
well, Plato talks about it, hearing it from Egyptian teachers.
Now,
and
Plato,
to the
Plato wrote about the Atlantic Cataclysm, right? This is what they talking about when they talk about Plato. They're talking about the Atlantic Cataclysm, right? So they saying that, Plato wrote about it, right? This catastrophe, this, event that took place that destroyed what we thought was civilization, what the Atlantic, people, right? And the Atlanteans did not get destroyed. They actually operate in tunnels that are up under our plane of existence. Now, anytime they do come back into recognition of us, or however you want, the people that's on top is the ones that are bullies and trying to, be in control, right? Other civilizations block themselves off from us because we don't know how to be at peace. We don't know how we are stubborn beings. So we keep the lust, the greed, the gluttony. We don't operate the same way the universe operates, right? So they didn't want, due to the fact that the universe can't really destroy, right? Because once exists, always exists. Once you exist, you always exist. You know what I'm saying? What is, always was, and always will be type shit, right? So the universe trapped us in, right? So this is where the ice comes in from around the Arctic Circle, right? As there was a time where the map showed that there was no ice on these lands, right? But in order to block us in, this is what they did. This is why they say allegedly, 72 countries can have a peace treaty not a peace treaty, but an agreement to say that no one should be allowed beyond these, planes, right? But however you're looking at this, there's way more to this world than what we think it is. And if I could break it down in any way, I'm going to break it down with an understanding of this, right? As above, so below. As without, so within, right? Let's get to the as without, so within, right? Let's say inside the body, you are made up of 76% 66 of water. Outside your body, ironically, the world is made up of 76.66 of water, right? We explored only 10% of that 76% that is of water outside the body, right? According to sonars, according to what they know, 5% we have explored within the depths, right? Going into caverns, so on and so forth. But with sonar, we have explored up to 10%. You can Google this. You can ask your, Siri, whatever it is that you do, right? you know, we explore this magnitude of knowledge, right? So, you know, the same thing is to be said with inside the vessel. If we only explored so much of our waters outside the vessel, then we only explore so much of our waters inside the vessel, right? As above, so below, as without, so within, right? A lot of people are not willing to actually take heed of certain variations of knowledge and so on and so forth, right? So when you look at it, we only explored 60% of our planet. If you count the 30%, the 30-something percent, you know, 20-something percent, I mean, that makes up land, you can say we explored all the land, right? And then you count the 76% that make up water, right? And we only explored 10% of that, right? So therefore, there's 60-something percent of this planet that we have no idea about, right? And there's a beacon that is literally going off from the other side of our planet that they literally can pick up on because it is vibrating from the sun and sending a signal back down that they are reading. They are reading the signal that is coming back, but they're not speaking about the signal that's going out. Frequencies, right? Different crystals that are sending different frequencies to the planet, that is sending like a signal to the sun to tell the sun what colors to send back to operate down here, or blocking off certain variations of colors from the sun. However you look at this, right? But something is taking place on a greater scale, whether it be, you know, and you could look at it, the, you know, black sun, operation of the black sun, you know, how it operates on intent, but you got to have the people. So they put people's intentions in certain vibrational frequencies to operate the black sun in order to send a signal to the sun that then sends the signal back down, so on and so forth, because that's all it is. Motions. We are moving through the galaxy. Our galaxy, this galaxy, so on and so forth. Everything's in motion, right? But they're not telling you about these frequencies, right? They're not telling you about the plasma field that is around our Earth that is actually known as Gaia, which is Earth's consciousness, right? The light body that is around the physical body, right? Just like the plasma field that is around your physical body, right? Which is considered to be your light body, right? This is where that 6 feet to 8 feet radius away from other people. Because if your light body has awakened, right, then they want you to be 6 to 8 feet around other light bodies that might have awakened. Do y'all get what I'm saying? Ones in the chat if you get what I'm saying. They know it's the time of the gathering. Ones in the chat if you understand.
Atlantean civilization,
Right,
and it was
but
the raceless
my point is,
advanced.
what was their Bible?
Well, so
You know what I mean? Like,
What was the
you go back
Atlanteans'
to
Bible?
11,800 years ago and read what they thought went down. Because I think that's probably where the oral traditions come from. The oral traditions come from complete collapse of society, rebuild over time, takes forever, and then a re-understanding of what you know to be true
what you know to,
about
yes.
the origin of man and the birth of the universe and why we're here. And then you got to figure out what Jesus is.
Well, so I actually, when I was in my early 20s, I actually went to Egypt to see the megalithic structures there.
Appreciate that, Freedom. Appreciate that.
Sumerian,
SOS,
inscriptions
appreciate
and
that.
carvings of what they thought the ancient Sumerian.
It's great to be
gods were
around
on
people
top
that
of
understand.
What's interesting is
Namaste.
that Enoch actually has reference
Namaste.
to
The God in me recognize the God in
Anunnaki,
you.
but a different. I think it's like Anu is like the root term that's used for it. So
Yes.
You read the Zechariah Sitchin stuff?
no.
See, now we get into it. We tried to hold the conversation about Zechariah Stitches. We tried to hold the conversation about, you know, Anu, right? Which is the Anu that's in the Mo. That's where we come in. It is the essence that is breathed within inside of us that is considered to be the ghost, Holy Spirit, life, right? Once you realize that you are alien or whatever they call it, right? It is the Anu that is in the Mo, where we get the word animal from, right? It is the Anu that is in the Mo. Now, back in the day, they had Naki, right? Mankind was considered to be Naki, right? So then when you became Anu, you was a Anunnaki, right? So man was Naki, according to the Sumerians, right? Me, Naki, You see? So man was Naki, right? So Anunnaki is the demigod, the I am God, the I am the God of myself, so on and so forth. So you become an Anunnaki when you realize the Anu inside of Mo, right? Mo, right? The hue that is inside of man, hue man, right? So the hue is the essence, the ghost, the life that is given to us from the universe that makes us have a soul, a consciousness, a Christ, a Jesus within inside of us, right? And then it is the man. The man is the carnal. That's the carnal version. But the spirit, the soul, that's the hue. This is where the hue comes in. This is where the Anu comes in. The Sumerian knew it, and they changed it up based off of Zechariah Stitchins and how they changed up the Sumerian gods' understanding of all of this, and so on and so forth. Listen, it's all coming out.
Hey, do you know of it?
I have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the most fun.
Yeah. Well, I
Look
I
it
would
up.
say with all of that going
Journey
back
to Genesis,
if you read Enoch,
Earth's
and follow
Chronicles,
about the fall of mankind and
parts.
angels with, and this is Christian theology, right? So like angels came down, rebelled against God, interbred with humankind. That would be, I think, a good starting point for what potentially the Anunnaki is.
Yeah, God probably didn't like that they were coming around and taking the ancient hominids and juicing them up. Juicing them up, make them chess champions.
Heaven did not approve.
Yeah, it's probably against the code of the universe. God probably says, look, you can go visit, but don't mess around with it.
Well, there's definitely something to be said. It actually talks about this in Enoch about a divine justice. And so I think, again, going back to what is our job, how would society
that don't even make
function,
sense.
have aspects in like government.
God told them don't
government,
come down there and
follow through and bring
don't you go mess with them.
That's our job at the same sense, in that we have to ensure that if we are to truly have an equal
This is why they block
that
information,
aspect of
because
justice that has to be carried out. And I can go back to something that I found kind of crazy.
Joe Rogan is
the
a great
mandatory minimums for
disinformationer.
Child predators are not
Every
high
time he
percentage
gets
rates, so
somebody
false
up here that
claims,
speaks some
minimums,
light,
but
light,
there's been a lot
he
of
plays a
argue about
great
that. Why would you,
disinformationer. That's why they love him.
not
Because he
increase
plays
some
a
people
great,
against the death penalty? I
he
would say that
deflects
it's
this
not,
stuff. He
right,
adds the
it's not
lower
the way God
vibrational
intended
frequency to it.
to arrange the
Like angels and demons type conversation. He
It's a
adds the
weird
right
job.
amount of darkness
I mean,
that puts the
you're
fear back
involved in
into you.
Disclosure of things that have
You
questioned.
be getting so enlightened, you be like, oh snap, and then Joe Rogan come and add the fear,
Huge questions.
put
that
you back in your
exist
chakra.
from the 1960s on. UFOs, JFK, Martin Luther King, RFK. Those are the big ones.
We're
Those are the
pushing
big
for
ones.
it, and there's a good group of people that are assigned to it. I did say recently, so the MLK documents just came out, and we're wrapping up our JFK investigation. So after we finalize the JFK investigation, we're putting out an official congressional report on our findings, and people can read it and decide for themselves. Then we have RFK and then MLK, but I think a lot of the MLK family was actually very concerned that we were going to go into extracurricular, and that's not the objective of the task force. It's to specifically expose what the government was doing, if they knew about the potential threats. And people say, well, why do we care about it? I constantly get, well, we shouldn't care about this. No, you should, because there has to be a check and balance. And when you know if the CIA was operating outside the purview of the federal government, if you know that whistleblowers are being punished, if there needs to be reform to the FOIA Act, all of this stuff, then we have to be able to put forward legislation to ensure it doesn't happen again. And what's been very interesting and almost serendipitous about the whole JFK investigation is you have President Trump now in the second term that's released all this information, and multiple presidents tried to, but they were worked against by their own secretaries within these agencies, and then deep state actors that try to block the efforts for release. Now you're seeing kind of a flush of the system, and even though information hasn't come out as fast as we would like it to, the fact that they've made these admissions is really good. But moving forward into how do you prevent this from happening again, it's people really do, like young people especially, because there's so much fatigue for people that have been in office for, and the reason I say that, like, I don't even want to do this for the next 10 years is because everyone, even people I've looked up to, after a certain amount of time, they lose their edge. And I think that that's because, like, you're up there, you're taking in a lot of incoming. It's not a fun job. Like, you're getting attacked, like, you're getting beat down. It's stressful. But if you can put all your energy in it now, and then you can cut ties and pass it on. That's how our founding fathers wanted us to do, is like pass the torch, stand up the next generation.
Right, but we have a bunch of career politicians
Correct.
that want to stay in office for 50, 60 years.
Correct, and that's a problem, and it's on both sides.
Yeah, it's on both sides.
So I'm trying to do a discharge petition now on term limits. So back in January of my first term, so back in January of 2022, I'm sure you saw there was like this massive speakers fight about.
I'm gonna reach out to her to see if I can get her on the panel.
Speaker of the House. And I was part of one of those 20 that said.
Can we get her information? Can we reach out to her to see if we can get her on the panel? I would love to have her on the panel.
Consolidated within the speaker's
On
position, so much so
YouTube.
that how it's supposed to work is you're supposed to be able to bring a bill forward.
What y'all think,
it's supposed to
YouTube?
come to the floor.
We should find
All
out
these
how to
policies were being
get in touch with her.
consolidated in one person, and if you didn't fall in line, you wouldn't get committee assignments, you wouldn't be able to fundraise. They would basically cut off all aspects of fundraising in Washington. And the mainstream media for a while was like, you guys are disrupting the process, you know, like you guys are fighting. Well, what the hell do you want Congress to do? You want us to just fall in line and not argue our principles? Like, that's last time I checked, you're supposed to fight for that. And so we're able to reform.
I want to ask her, like,
one of the things
do
that
you
we
have, do you know about like
speaker was,
Cleopatra
we
Needle? Do
wanted
you
a
know
vote
about
on
how,
term
you know, they
limits,
put
and that
certain
never came
people
up.
in
And so now
vibrational
because our
frequencies through
very
feelings
slim
and
majority,
emotions or
one of the most
manipulation
slim
of
majorities in
thought?
US history,
I want to ask her
we have the
some
ability to
real
do something called a
questions. Like, I want to
petition.
really see,
And so you
like,
can physically
really
go down
crack,
and basically
you know what I'm
collect
saying?
signatures
Really
on the bill.
open it up.
And
Like,
so I'm bringing forward
Joe
two
Rogan
that
mind
are
ain't
running.
enlightened
One is
enough to
gonna
ask
be
the real
to
question.
force a vote on term
There's
limits. So
energy
I'm gonna take
manipulation
members of
happening
Congress
all
will actually
around
put their
us.
name to actually bring that bill to the
I
floor.
would,
There's
I
gonna be
would
massive-
love to have
I
a
hope by
government
15 to
official
members to do that, and then other
persona
ones banning
on the
it.
platform speaking
Yeah,
about this. I
that's
think
been
I'm
talked about
I think I'm gonna look into
But hasn't been
getting
done.
in touch with her.
And we can do it
Nancy
now.
just needs a little more money and then she'll
I
quit.
need to get
Well,
in
it's
touch
not-
with Congressman
You know,
Luna.
there was a
Congresswoman
meeting for
Luna.
the entire GOP.
Anna
and
Luna.
I'm
I
calling
need
it
to
for
get in
principle
touch with
on
her.
banning insider trading, and we were not invited to that meeting. Our staff was excommunicated from
I
that.
wonder why.
Yeah, I
There
know.
once was a girl in the
It's crazy how,
garden.
like, openly corrupt out there businesses, but the thing is, once you become accustomed to be able to do something, and you've been able to do it for decades, you're very reluctant to give that up. Why would you give that up? That's a huge advantage.
People say that it doesn't exist, but last time I checked, when you are given access to CEOs, when you're given access to information that are affecting markets, and then you're on the committee or that has purview over those bills, you do have information. Like, for
Seems like
We need to get in touch with her. We might be able to, you know.
and there's a lot, you know. You
We
can
gotta
look
get
at
in
people's-
touch with
you know,
this
they go
person.
in, you're making 175 a year, and then all of a sudden you come out, you're worth like 20 million, 200 million. It's kind of
crazy.
shady.
You're not really gambling. You know,
No.
the stock market is kind of gambling. You're not gambling. Like, the UFC doesn't even allow me to gamble, and I can't even affect the outcome.
But yeah,
about
see,
that?
so you can't do it,
Yeah.
but Congress can.
But Congress can, you know?
For
It's
now,
like,
at least.
the inside information that I have, anybody could have. Mostly. Not really. No, that's not true. No, I know some stuff sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was told
But-
if I forced a vote that I was going to cost us the Republic, is what I was told.
But the thing about the insider trading thing is the amount of money is so egregious. Like, isn't Pelosi now worth $400 million? Wasn't that
It's upwards. I saw upwards of 200 million, but
I thought
compounding interest.
she jacked up her portfolio recently significantly.
but it's
Damn.
not just her. It's on both sides.
Oh yeah, no, she's just a
Pelosi.
poster lady.
And then-
Unfortunately,
Damn.
no slight at her. It's all across the board.
400
If you look at
million,
how many people,
damn.
it's red, blue, red, blue. It's the whole
Hey,
thing.
all
Everybody's doing it.
money.
I told
Everybody's
my husband,
doing
I was
it.
like,
Damn.
we're not going to do stocks
See?
because it's just.
We
that's
gotta
the one thing.
unify
You can talk to
people.
anyone.
We
I
not.
actually was
They
reading
getting
articles,
rich.
So, and the local press are like,
They
"Our
getting
president's
rich. They
trying
don't
to
give
force
a
vote on
fuck.
this," right? And so, like, I'm always
Pelosi?
the kind of redheaded stepchild,
400 million?
especially in
Damn.
young circles. But this one lady post, I
What
actually
the
started laughing.
fuck?
She goes, "Well, a broken clock is right twice a day," and I started laughing because I'm like, it's such like a bipartisan issue. Like, over 80% of Americans don't think that Congress should be able to trade stock, and it's true because we're given access to information, and that's truly influencing your
Did
decisions.
you ask her what the rest of you are wrong about?
I mean, I think it's party associations. Like, some people
Yeah.
just will never vote.
A broken clock.
Yeah, but
Yeah, people are rabid, and they're super upset now. Obviously, because Trump's in office again, so that rabid nature has been over amplified.
It has. I think a lot of it, though, is driven by, like, bot activity, I think is really big. I can tell you that when I first launched the task force, people were like, she's an intelligence asset. She's never going to release information. Then it came out that I actually don't have declassification authority. But we have been able to produce wins, and we are getting full cooperation from the executive branch. So we're just simply investigating the findings, collecting the information, and pressuring for release.
There's real people along with those bots, but real people are also influenced by bots as well.
Groupthink.
There's waves of negativity and positivity that go in certain directions that are orchestrated, and there's companies that are known companies that you could actually hire them to go do stuff.
They exist in Florida, actually. There's a couple of social media influencers that have been approached. I've seen it, so I know it exists.
It's crazy.
What's interesting, though, is it goes back to you never want to get in trouble in a crowd of people because they'll just look at each other. You ever see, like, someone getting beat?
Did you hear what she said? Did you hear what she said? They actually exist. These people who are in charge of, reaching out to social media influencers and making sure that negative goes in this direction and so on and so forth. And you guys don't think this is bigger than what I know people want to make it seem like, this person's crazy. But here it is, a government official confirming that there are social media personas out there that are, trying to create different variations of negativity because someone approached them or someone is, paying them to be of the lower vibrational variety.
Up and they just film it, right? So they're going to help that person, and that's part of that groupthink. It exists online. I do think X needs to do something, at least be able to label bot accounts, because I've seen it happen, especially on certain things. Like I had done something to allow new moms to vote when you're recovering. Our job is different. Like only 13 women in U.S. history have ever given birth. It's about to be 14 who are members of Congress, and God forbid we enter a war or something, we're not going to be able to vote. If you're recovering in a hospital, that's a pretty rare circumstance. And so there was definitely bot accounts that were attacking me for that and accusing me of destroying the republic again. I said I don't think that that's the case, but
yeah, that's not tinfoil hat stuff, folks.
No.
You really need to know that. Why wouldn't there be? This is the thing. If you were, whether it's this country, a corporation, another country, why wouldn't you automate your system or have AI or even just have actual people that have a job, and their job is to type inflammatory, whatever it is, insults, whatever it is, whatever their accomplishment or whatever their goal they're trying to accomplish is. Why wouldn't you have a group of people that you have at your command if it's legal? Because it is legal.
So it is legal, and in politics, what's interesting is they'll test, especially when you're running for office, it's kind of interesting because you'll actually, during my first race, I actually had a firm that I was going to for consulting, and they had someone that had worked at the firm that had also worked with McDonald's branding. So people that are running for office will bring on these firms, and then they'll give them kind of a branding profile. What was interesting about that is that, you have this aspect of bot activity. Social media at the time was kind of just resurfacing as if you want to be kind of influential, you have to be able to use social media, share your message, and get that out there. And I think Trump really kind of refined that. It was kind of one of the leading figures in that, especially when Twitter 1.0 was in existence.
Right.
But then you had this aspect of people that were running for office, and then there was actually a censorship state in this country, and we found that out, that Twitter 1.0 was coordinating with the Department of Homeland Security. We found this out actually in a congressional hearing where they were actually, and DHS had a division under CISA that was supposed to be monitoring terrorist organizations, and they were using it on the American people to censor information, specifically on COVID, on January 6th, all that. That is scary. You still have censorship issues in places like the EU. So to think that they wouldn't use social media platforms, especially to influence masses, is just, that's not a conspiracy theory. That happens. We have evidence of that.
Of course, censorship is influencing. It's also causing people to self-censor, which changes discourse.
Yeah, not wanting to have conversations.
Yeah, but you can get banned from Twitter for a variety of things, particularly during COVID. But I think code was also a great test case for them. Let's see, if there's some sort of a catastrophe, some natural disaster, some national security issue, where we could now enforce new regulations of censorship.
Well, and scary regulations at that, because COVID was really kind of dystopian. And going back to kind of, I think you'd mentioned foreign government influence using bots. The one thing that's been interesting is in our investigation, so like taking now my task force hat off and going into actually problems that we see right now happening. You saw this like massive a couple weeks ago rift that was taking place between the American people specifically on immigration, and all of a sudden these like pop-up riots. I actually called them the Temu riots, like the Temu Chinese app, because it came out via actually this woman, her name's Data Republican on X, and she actually tracked down the funding line. And what was happening was the Chinese government was basically propping up this billionaire, American billionaire, Neville Singham, and actually he was donating money to organizations like Party of Socialism and Liberation, and they were actually funding a lot of these riot pop-ups in the area. So you had people that were being used, divided, for example, on the immigration topic. You literally have them passing out, Mexican flags saying that they cared about immigrants, when in actuality, the financial ties is actually coming from the CCP. So the Chinese government, on many occasions, and it's not uncommon within Congress to know, even on apps like TikTok, they were showing certain information in order to cause a rift and influence people. This same individual, Neville Singham, actually, once we got this information, we sent a request to have him come testify to Congress. And he spends part of his year in Shanghai, China, and so we were not able to deliver him his subpoena, basically. And so there's a letter that Chairman Comer has now authorized to be sent that will go to the Treasury Department to freeze his assets unless he comes to testify to Congress.
Wow.
And that, mind you, this is not, people, and like, look, I started out before politics with my feet getting wet as an activist. Like, that's actually how I started out in politics. So like, I understand the immigration, the board, I like understand all arguments because I've been through it and I've had it debated. But what's the problem for me is that you have foreign governments trying to cause a rift and then promote ideologies that will empower people specifically to push forward policy that will actually put us as like second tier as opposed to the Chinese government. And I do think that the Chinese government in their execution has been very, very specific about how they want to hinder our ability to be global dominators. I think when you're looking at what happened in COVID timeframe, right? So like a lot of people said that Wuhan lab leak, that was a conspiracy theory. We now know that it happened and that was true. But at the same time, if you look at what President Trump was doing, he was actually trying to...
See, that's why I say, you go back and you read, Dean Koontz, right? You go back and you read Dean Koontz, right? And he came out with a book in like 1979 that said that this, what the virus was going to be released from, Shanghai, China, from a lab and so on and so forth. You can go back and read this book. It's very, very crazy that this book came out in 79 and then COVID happened in 2019. There was also different variations of messages when it came to Obama, that Obama knew about it, right? Obama said it's very important that we get, health, right? So that's why he came out with the Obamacare. You go back and read, and you go back and listen to Obama's speeches, and in one of the speeches he said, God forbid, something happen and we're not able to, recover from it on the medical side, so on and so forth. So they knew about this stuff before it happened. They knew about it. They never put in no type of prevention plan, so on and so forth, because a lot of this stuff is not based off of saving people. A lot of stuff that's out there is actually based off of population control. You think they want you to know that you live 120 years and forever and all of that stuff? You think they want to put that in your mind? Why would they want to put that in your mind? Why would they want you to think that however young you think you are within inside your mind, that's your body will age according to that? Why would they want you to know that your mind is, why, Cletus? Why? They don't, okay? Now, we're going to go play the game. So if you would, you can go over to Energy of Atlas, where we'll be gaming at. Energy of Atlas on TikTok. Just put the OF in the middle of Energy Atlas. Just put the OF in it. All right? So we're going to go over there and do some gaming. Probably play some Call of Duty or something. Twist up something. appreciate everybody that's been here with me. We spent a lot of time speaking on it. We're going to do another live later speaking on it. Maybe cue this part in 147 in or 145, then we might come back and listen to it later on. Shout out to everybody that was here. Everybody that was here for the learning part of this. Now it's time for us to go game and chill and, I gotta do a workout later on, but okay. Yeah, we in it together. I might start doing workout classes in the Discord, so, I might open up the Discord and start doing workout classes in the Discord, calisthenic workouts, push-ups, crunches, stuff like that. So I'm gonna, start doing that stuff in the Discord. Like I said, man, we're headed in a different direction. So on and so forth, mind, body, and spirit. You gotta stay within line within yourself. Find your collective. If someone else is not in your collective, not a part of your collective, don't be afraid to allow them to walk away. Don't be afraid of separation, right? And move forward with greatness, and everybody's going, it's going to work out for everybody. As long as you have good intentions for everybody, it's going to work out for them. Just don't put no ill intent on nobody, you know what I mean? Just have good, intent. Yeah, this is good stuff right here. This is good stuff. I'm glad that we getting a little bit of disclosure from the government or a government official anyway, or Congresswoman Luna. So y'all make sure y'all go check that out. Look up Congresswoman Luna. Fuck, I knew it. Dang, yeah, I knew I stayed on that topic too long. I knew somebody was spamming my account. I knew it. Damn. Hold on, let me see. How long the violation for? Your access to go live, multiplayer will be restored on August 21st. Hell no, I gotta appeal that. No, we gotta appeal that. Damn, I went past the 2-hour marker. I should have stayed within the 2-hour marker like I started to. I don't know what this world gon' bring, but I know one thing, that this is a life for me, baby, 'cause I'm a thug, all day, every day, baby, 'cause I'm a thug, wouldn't change for a thing, baby, 'cause I'm a thug. Come on. Don't try to take all day with my appeal either. Now y'all gonna take all day with my appeal. What is this he's saying?
Prevents you from becoming a pawn. The Matrix loves to use people as middlemen to steer others. Pay attention. Energy, do not lie. Control players read frequency first, language second. Fuck what they telling you. If you feel that energy is off, move around, player. Sudden shift in the atmosphere. You feel a change in mood, tension, or energy the moment that you
around. Absolutely. Move around. Absolutely. Move the fuck around. Shit, they got crazy in this world. Yeah, I've been on for 3 hours. The appeal's gonna come back though on the TikTok page. It wasn't the main page on TikTok. We will be updating our community guidelines on September 13th so you can continue to create, discover, and share safely on TikTok. Check out what's new. Not a big deal. That's why we operate on multiple accounts, so that way they can't never stop us from actually speaking on the knowledge, you know what I mean? That's all it is.
It's on the same road.
We got enough accounts to cover it. We got enough accounts to cover it on TikTok. Y'all make sure y'all go over and follow the main page, Energy of Atlas on TikTok. Make sure y'all go over. Let me see what Killer and them doing.
This whole team pulling about right now.
About to go over there and just play the game. Y'all have a great day, man. Love is love. Namaste, Ashe. Once again, I apologize for any feelings and emotions that I might have pressed upon people during this journey. I'm going to take my feelings and emotions off the table and just bring, whatever it is that is of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. We're going to move forward in that light. We're going to let the negative be the negative, let them begot what they begot, and we're going to move forward with peace and positive. I, respect anybody who stepped away from us. I, respect anybody who don't sit right with this and decided that they don't want to be a part of it. I never told anyone they had to choose a side. So once again, all the false narratives that they put out there, we're going to let them have their false narratives. We're going to continue to grow with positivity and let them have their grifting, let them have their negative, and we're just going to pull people in from TikTok and reach a different audience of people. I appreciate everyone who still continue this journey with us. We will make it bigger. We will make it better. I will, be operating on 3 different TikTok pages, sending a multitude, as many as I can, over to the page through my gaming page, through my spiritual page, and through the agency. So love and light to everybody.
I see him right now.
I think he's playing ranked. I gotta go into his Discord real quick to see what he's doing. Hey, y'all have a great day, man. Y'all have a great day on purpose. Have a great day.